Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
It's hard to believe that Nicolas Cage has been acting professionally for 40 years, has over 100 credits to his name, and he has never once been in a Western. Well, that was until now. In fact, in 2022, Nick shot 2 of them back-to-back just to make up for lost time. One was Butcher's Crossing, and the other was a film one critic summed up by calling it the Mild West. So saddle up, partner, as we dive deep into 59-year-old Nicolas Cage's Western debut, The Old Way.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat?
A-hole.
Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
A retired gunslinger is forced to face the consequences of his past when the son of a man he killed in his outlaw days comes for revenge, sending he and his young daughter on a mission of vengeance.
Let's see who's joining Nick on this adventure.
The Old Way stars Ron Howard's weirdo brother and perennial character actor Clint Howard, a rising star who is learning how to choose scenery from the best, Noah LaGrosse.
LaGrosse, I don't know how to spell it.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Firestarter 2.0 and American Horror Story alum Ryan Kiera, I'm guessing Kyra, who knows? Armstrong, character actress and scene stealer Kerry Knuppe.
Nope.
Is it Nope? Kerry Knuppe. And of course, the man with the best goddamn caterpillar mustache in showbiz, Academy Award winning actor and fastest gun in the Old West, Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
It's just a shame you didn't have that mustache for very long.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was dumb that they got rid of it right away.
Yeah. Well, we had to show the passage of time.
Right. How else would you show that he's he's 20 years older and looks exactly the same?
Yeah. He's young
also
because he has a mustache.
Nice comparison to Arsenal.
Let's dive into the nitty-gritty.
The Old Way was released on January 6th, 2023, 6 years to the day as Arsenal, our last movie. As we discussed in that, what a weird coincidence. Did not do that intentionally. I just picked, I kind of jump
once
around.
in a while. It happens while we're doing this show.
Yeah, weird coincidences. Had a budget of, I don't know. Couldn't find it anywhere. I looked everywhere. I'm assuming I listened to the commentary and they were the guy, the director was talking about how much everything costs. And I really feel like this movie probably was under 3, maybe 4 million, maybe 5.
Yeah. It really felt like it costs as much as like an episode of a TV show.
Yeah. I will say that with whatever budget they were given, they did a pretty good job. I mean, just those vistas alone, that doesn't cost anything, but it looked beautiful. I would say that this whole movie was pretty gorgeous.
Yeah.
Box office was $59,729. I do remember seeing pictures of people going to see it. But I don't think it was released in the United States at all in theaters. I didn't see it come up anywhere.
Light run in theater. Because I swear one of the theaters in Wenatchee, that small one, I think they had a showing of it.
Really?
I think so. Because I remember seeing it and wanted to go, but I couldn't.
Maybe they had it for like a week and we're like, okay, no one's seeing this thing.
It was probably like a day.
Get out of here.
$59,000. Like, I mean, it's got Nick Cage and Clint Howard in it. You would think at least that, and like Nick Cage's first ever Western, you think that people would go just to see, not a lot of people, just of more than $59,000 worth of people. I mean, it costs $47 to go to a movie nowadays anyway. So like you could recoup that in no time.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of, extra cost of putting it in theaters these days. And a lot of times people just kind of go, well, it's probably not going to make a ton of money anyway. So we'll put it in a limited run and then we'll drop it on streaming somewhere.
Yeah.
I remember it was
starts with A.
Yeah, it was $20 to rent it on Prime when it first came out. And I was like, I do a show about Nicolas Cage and I'm not paying $20 to rent the old way. I bought the Blu-ray digital copy for like $12 after it came out.
Well, those early access films now, they're always like $20 because they're trying to capitalize on people not going to the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not Spider-Man, it's fucking the old way. I'm not paying $20 for that. This was directed by Brett Donahue, who directed Acts of Violence. Good movie. Bruce Willis, one of those.
One of those
Bruce Willis
one
movies,
of those movies, yeah.
It's just sad now, though.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to talk about these days, but Bruce Willis became an absolute joke for about 5 years there, where he just did nothing but direct-to-DVD movies, and then we found out why he was doing that, and now it's not a joke anymore.
Yeah, so now it's just sad.
Now it's just sad. He also directed No Tell Motel, which I feel like I've seen the title on like Netflix while looking through.
Yeah.
Mostly no budget indie flicks. He was talking in the commentary about how he's made a lot of bad movies, but at least he made them cheap. What's that?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that's good. Studios probably like hearing that.
Yeah, I'm sure. They just crank them out.
They can help them. He helps them get their Hollywood budgets.
Yeah.
Line.
Launder some
there's
money.
Something to be said about that. Yeah.
Was written by Carl W. Lucas, who has had 3 films he's written, produced since 2010, though he's apparently written 37 screenplays.
Okay.
Is currently directing a film called Prism Lake, so look out for that. Good. There's a lot of this kind of stuff of like, I really had to struggle to find anything that anybody's ever heard of on these. So yeah.
It really does just feel like a bunch of money laundering schemes. Like why are these movies made?
Yeah.
Why are so many of these movies made every year?
Yeah. I don't want to be a dick, but I feel like if you've written 37 scripts, by now you should probably be able to write a good one.
Yeah.
We'll get into it in the breakdown and stuff, but like this film, they were very strapped for time, and the screenplay was much, much more in depth, and they had to cut a lot just because they were like, okay, well, you have less, you have 2 less days. Oh, now you have 2 less days than you had before. The entire third act, I'll get to it in the quick facts, had to be shot in 1 day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
sense. I was going to say, I thought you were going to say it doesn't exist. The entire third act.
I watching this after having just done Arsenal, I felt, this is very Arsenal-esque as far as like the shooting schedule goes.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell if it was
almost
really,
identical, actually.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was bad writing or just strapped for time and studio noodling, which, I mean, when you have like 1,000 studios attached to the film.
I mean, honestly, for what amount of time they had and the the shooting schedule, I feel like they actually did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, they got a complete story in there. And,
yeah, and it's coherent, unlike Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
They don't retell the first act and the second act.
This was shot by Sion Michel, who has mostly done shorts and music videos.
Didn't he also do Prisoners of Ghostland?
No, that was
I did a double take too. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wait, did he change his name to get back into the show?
Apparently, Sion is a Welsh name.
A Welsh name?
It's a Welsh version of John. And it means
Really?
God or Yahweh.
Huh.
I was like, what is that? Okay, well. All right.
See? I've said it
Learn something
before,
new.
but you learn things you didn't expect to learn.
We're educational.
He's mostly shot shorts and music videos and nothing I've ever heard of. But he was a camera operator on The Green Lantern, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and Memoirs of a Geisha.
I love that movie.
I thought that movie was, well, I haven't seen it, but I never heard bad things about it.
Oh yeah,
It was
that's
a good film.
Yeah, that's the only one that's acclaimed in that.
Yeah.
In that those three movies that I have ever heard of that he was a camera operator on.
It was shot really well too. So.
This movie, as I said, is gorgeous. I feel like it was beautifully shot. And again, like listening to the time constraints and the amount of setups they had planned but were taken away, I feel like he did a pretty great job. I mean, I feel like it's got that old West feel to it and beautiful vistas, nice wide Panavision look to the shots. So, you know, I would say if there's any faults in this movie, which we'll get to, it's definitely not the visuals.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I would also say that the editing was pretty good. Edited by Frederick Wardell, who most notable gig was Major League 2.
Awesome.
Remember Major League 2? Wesley Snipes isn't in it anymore.
Was Charlie Sheen in it?
Yeah. They're like they like go back to the miners or something.
Oh, that's right.
I can't
Back
remember.
to the miners.
No, wait, no, that might be the third one. I don't
Was that
remember.
the third?
And Joe Boo, I don't think is in it. The guy, the Allstate guy, I don't feel like he was in it. I don't remember.
You mean the president from 24?
Yeah, that guy. Also edited the Onion movie, if you ever watched that, which was actually pretty good. But I don't know about the editing. I don't remember that part. But it was funny. Music by Andrew Morgan Smith, who has over 90 credits as a composer. I don't recognize a single credit besides Jeepers Creepers 3.
Yeah.
But I will say he has a ridiculous amount of shark credits, including Swamp Shark, Ghost Shark. These are all individual movies. Shark Island, Ozark Sharks, Mississippi River Sharks, Trailer Park Shark, and Santa Jaws.
All right, dude. For a Back in the Cage episode, we have to watch Santa Jaws.
Santa Jaws.
I
saw Trailer Park Shark with my dad years ago. It was like on Sci-Fi Channel.
Of course.
So I've seen this guy's work. I've heard his music before. This guy actually...
The music was terrible in this movie.
Really? I thought the music was... I felt like it was... I don't know. It reminded me of like Red Dead Redemption. Had a nice kind of like Western vibe to it, but I felt like it pulled things together pretty well.
It just felt like, to me, it felt like Nickelodeon kids movie music, like after school special. Like, I don't know.
It was kind of
the kind of stuff
Western.
you'd hear in like Are You Afraid of the Dark or the old Goosebumps show or something. It's really
it had a few moments where it got pretty goofy, but I did feel like it was, I don't know. I felt like it was better than some of the movies that we've watched.
It was no Bad Lieutenant. I'll put it that way. It wasn't that goofy, but it definitely did kind of seem just generic Western.
To me, it actually detracted from, because I thought the movie looked pretty well. It looked nice, shot well, and I don't know, the music just didn't seem up to par to me.
It was actually Andrew Morgan Smith actually pulled in the Budapest orchestra for this, so they got a much bigger budget orchestra to work on it compared to what they had a budget for. And it was because like they owed him a favor or something. So yeah, is what it is. He also did the music for a movie called Arachnoquake.
I've heard of that one actually.
Which I just want to call out because the name is amazing. Ratings, this did not get great ratings. 32%, 5.1 out of 10 on 56 reviews. Only 56 reviews, which seems low for a movie that was released in 2022 or 2023. Usually these days, like there's a million people lined up to review these things, but only
maybe because
56.
it didn't actually get a release, so
It's true. Yeah. They probably had a hard time seeing it.
$20.
Even critics were like, I'm not paying $20.
I know I can expense this shit, but Jesus.
Not even worth it. I got to put this on my taxes.
Claim this shit.
Audience score, though, was 70%. So overwhelmingly, not overwhelmingly, but pretty positive. 70%. Metacritic score was 43%, which is actually fairly high for a Metacritic score. Mm-hmm. And then IMDb 5.4 out of 10, which I feel is more fair. As we've said many times, that's the real audience. Those are people who just happen to be on IMDb and it asks them to review it, and that's what they give. So real people, not biased people who are going out of their way to review something for an agenda or for clicks, I guess.
Unless it's a comic book movie, and then you'll have users flooding it one way or the other.
Yeah, I guess so. IMDb can have that happen to them too.
I don't think anybody brigaded the old way reviews.
No, I don't think so.
Cares.
I think 5.4 is pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
How about a Coppola Quick Facts?
Coppola Quick Facts. There's literally only a couple of facts here, true to our segment title. I couldn't find hardly anything on this movie, but part of that is probably because it just came out in our timeline. It just came out a couple of months ago. By the time this comes out, it'll be 2028 or something. There's only a few things, and I like forced myself to sit through the entire commentary to try and get more information, and I got like 2 more quick facts out of that, which tells you, if that tells you anything about how riveting the commentary was from our director, Brett Donahue. Brett Donahue. We'll get the biggest one out of the way first. The armorer on the shoot was Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who was blamed for a number of unsafe activities by the assistant director and Nicolas Cage. He was nearly had his eardrum ruptured by her. Like, she fired the gun right next to his head at one point.
Wow.
And he came out in defense after the news came out that I'll get to here. She was nearly thrown off set. Cage was very upset with her. And then her gig right after this was as the armorer on Rust. Just shot right after The Old Way. And is being investigated for the death of Helena Hutchins and injury of Joel Souza on the set for unsafe firearm handling, which I feel like, that's been talked to death out there in the world. But yeah, it's interesting to think like that could have happened on this movie. Like we could have been talking about Nick Cage being the one who's shot the director and the DP of a movie. But like Cage was very adamant about her being a complete nightmare on the set of this movie, and came out in defense of Alec Baldwin after that happened. So yeah, thankfully she will no longer be in movies, I would assume, right?
God, I hope, but who knows? Hollywood's trash, so they might just repurpose her somewhere else.
Ben Shapiro will hire her for his network. Big movie with Gina Carano.
Yeah.
God damn it.
As we said in the opening, this is the first traditional Western ever for Nicolas Cage, which is pretty crazy. Like, you know, I guess the Western is not really as popular of a genre as it used to be, but in 40 years of acting, he never did one Western.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Did a lot of vengeance movies, but never vengeance in the West.
I mean, he was in the West.
Does he like Westerns? I wonder if it's maybe just he's not a fan of them.
Yeah, he's talked up, you know, like the ones that everybody goes to, like the Magnificent Seven, and there was a lot of talk about Tarantino kind of reinvigorating the Western a little bit. The Django Unchained and Hateful Eight. He said that he'd been wanting to do one for a while, and he ended up doing it back to back with Butcher's Crossing and this one. Which who knows when Butcher's Crossing is going to come out? It did premiere at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival, last year, but it got pretty mixed reviews, and I wonder if they're giving it the Prisoners of the Ghostland treatment and re-editing it a little bit. It really worked out for Prisoners of the Ghostland.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that we might not see that one for a while.
Yeah. It took about 9 months before Prisoners came out after TIFF, so we'll see. I don't know. Noah LaGrosse, who plays our wonderful and engaging antagonist throughout this film, also played Nicolas Cage's son in A Score to Settle, so we'll get to see that dude chew some scenery again.
I don't think you'll see his name over a lot of marquees in the upcoming years.
He's like a acting coach, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was actually the acting coach for the little girl in the movie.
No, that's wrong. That's actually...
Is that wrong?
Dean Armstrong was the acting coach for her, who is her dad.
Oh, what the fuck? Okay. Well, then I read some bullshit facts then.
No, Dean Armstrong was was on set. He plays the mercantile at the beginning of the movie, which we'll get to. But yeah, I guess that leads me over to Ryan Kiera Armstrong, who is our kind of driving force of the movie. I feel like we kind of see things through her eyes and become deadened to the world like she is as we go through this film. But she was actually the last girl to audition of over 500 kids for this role, and ended up. They said that her audition was so good that it could have ended up in the movie. But she was tapped to be in something Star Wars related. I don't remember what it was, but I think it was something that got canceled. One of those 800 movies that they had planned.
Yeah, that doesn't really narrow it down.
They realized that we don't want a Star Wars movie every 6 months for the rest of time. How can you miss us if we never go away? But she was also in Firestarter, the remake. I'm like, come on, really? We need a remake of Firestarter? I guess you have to tell it for a new generation. Anyways. So she kind of got her big break there, and then American Horror Story was shot in only 18 days. And apparently when they first started shooting, they had 22 days. And as filming went along, the studio cut back 2 days. And they were like, okay, well, all right, I guess we'll make do. And then right before they finished filming, they were like, no, you got 2 less days again.
Oh, my God.
So they cut them down to 18 days. So the final act of this movie was supposed to be this big epic night filming where they would have rain and all sorts of stuff. And actually the interior of that brothel saloon that we're in for like 90 straight minutes, it feels like, was all supposed to be at night, and it was actually shot to be at night, and they had to fix it in the color grade and put VFX in the background so the windows would look like it was daytime outside. Yeah, so I can't even imagine, like, you know, you have this whole movie planned out, and you have you've set aside 3 full days for the outside shots of the final act, and they are like, you get 1 day. So they had to really make do, and you can really tell in that final act of like, wow, this is the most boring conclusion we could have possibly had to a guy who's been painted as a badass for this entire movie. And then he does all of his killing off screen for final act. You know, God love him for getting it done and making something coherent, but like, man, it really suffers from not having enough time. I really feel like if they would have had a little bit more time, we could have had a better ending to this movie. And then the final quick fact here is while they were filming next to Yellowstone. This is actually Yellowstone Ranch, which is only like 2 or 3 miles from the entrance of the park. And apparently up in the mountains is a right next to where the homestead is that we see with Cage and Ruth and the kid. There were tons of bears up in that mountain, and they had to have some dude with a dog on set the entire time watching for bears because they kept strolling in.
Goddamn.
You know, could have been a more interesting movie, you know, just have a bear attack right at the beginning.
Just leave it in. Keep the camera going.
Got to get that Revenant money.
Nick's Western career might just be getting started at the tender age of 59, but thankfully, there's no end to the amount of Westerns he can study thanks to our friends at Loved Again Media. Films like The Outlaw, Josie Wales, True Grit, and Unforgiven clearly inspired the old way and should definitely end up on your must-watch list, whether you're a Western fan or not. I know what you're thinking, wah, I hate Westerns. Well, Loved Again Media has an incredible library of movies starting at just $4 for DVDs and $5 for Blu-rays and TV box sets, so you're sure to find something you're into. Not only do they have a huge assortment of movies, but they also sell video games for $5, digital movie codes for $3.50, and mystery subscription boxes for movies, games, and even music on vinyl, where you can choose the genres you're into, and they'll send you an assortment that fits your tastes. Head over to lovedagainmedia.com to get an extra 15% off their already super low prices by entering our coupon code 1CAGE at checkout.
It's time for the main event. Here comes the breakdown. Act 1, the setup.
Our film begins the same way as many of the lower budget films we've talked about on this show, with a laundry list of studios who all scraped together the change in the couch cushions to make this masterpiece a reality. There were 7, in case you were wondering, which ate up almost 2 minutes of screen time in a 95-minute long film.
If you
they show all the studio logos, and then the opening credits are the studio logo or the studio names again.
Yeah,
you just saw.
Which I get. So like, they do that because like the version of the film that they show to buyers is that version with just the black. With the name. With the names. But then they put in all those damn studio logos, and like. One of them was the writer, one of them was the cinematographer, and one of them was the director. And then, of course, Nick Cage is Saturn Films. So it's like, really? So like every principal member of the crew gets their own like opening.
I saw that one of them was Saban Films or whatever, which is
Saban.
the guy who made Power Rangers originally. Not made, but brought it to the U.S.
Brought
I
it to the
suppose.
States.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess kind of made. Took
Pretty
those old
famous
Japanese
studio.
stock footage and made a show out of it for American kids. I've been watching some of the old original Power Rangers, and they're terrible. My parents are saints for putting up with me being obsessed with that show when I was a kid, because it is horrible.
I hated that show so much when I was a kid, because I was like, this is the replacement for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? This is crap. This is garbage.
Yeah,
and
I can see
even
that.
then I was like, this sucks.
I was 4 or 5 or so. I think I was 5 when it came out. So I was like right where it was awesome. And I never really got into TMNT because I was too young. But yeah,
I was like 10 or 11, and I could tell it was absolute trash.
It's horrible. Well, at least there's a Netflix revival now.
I know, dude. I'm stoked.
It's surreal. We open on a man about to be hanged by a mercantile shop owner who rambles on about how he was blessed by a higher power since he owns a store or some shit. So I guess that makes it okay for him to hang people. It's the Old West.
Old West, man.
Or modern day Idaho. Meanwhile, a debonair stranger with a comically ridiculous mustache watches on. By the way, the preacher guy was played by the actress who played Brooke's dad. So that's the
who played Brooke, her dad. Her dad.
The actress who played Brooke's dad.
Yeah.
The acting coach, I guess.
Yeah, he runs a school of some sort for kid actors. So makes sense that she became a kid actor.
Some guy tells Cage's character, Colton Briggs, that the brother of the guy who is about to be hung might be coming in to save them, while the hanging guy tries to get his son to leave and not watch him die. If only that kid had listened, we'd be spared the next 90 minutes of goofy grins from a complete wet blanket of an antagonist. Suddenly, hanging guy's brother starts blasting everyone with a shotgun while a couple other guys join in. Colton, stone-faced, stands there for a while with his mustache blowing in the wind before he draws his gun and takes out the bulk of the bad guys. A rider slices off the rope holding the hanging guy, saving him from the noose, while Colton pulls a wad of cash off that snarky mercantile guy who is now bleeding to death on the ground. Colton tells him,
"You owe me more."
Heads into his shop and takes the rest of the money he's owed, presumably from the register, before saying,
"Paid in full."
Remember those 2 throwaway lines because they basically are the plot of the entire film. Yeah. In this confusing scene, I don't know what was up. This scene was really...
I think
it's kind of hard to keep track of what was going on.
Yeah. Also, budget constraints, because this is actually the same town as the end of the movie, just redressed. But this was shot first, and they actually had enough coverage for this, according to the director. But they didn't have enough coverage for the ending of the movie. So it seems like you probably would have wanted to film the climax of the movie first before. But
the most expensive bit.
Seems like they kind of filmed it in sequence a little bit.
I guess the hanging guy isn't happy to be still alive. And with Colton killing his brother. So he grabs a rifle, but Colton guns him down before he can even finish a sentence, while his opie-looking son watches on in horror. Colton heads off down the dusty trail, and we cut to 20 years later, where he somehow looks younger. Guess that mustache wasn't doing him any favors. Don't they usually, like... The younger version of a character in a show has no facial hair, and then they add facial hair to make him look older, and they did the reverse. And that's why they gave him this like mustache, and then now he's clean shaven.
Yeah, he starts out kind of like gruff and old looking, and then he's like dressed, spiffy and has nicely coiffed hair and is clean shaven. So that's the movie version of let's make them young, but it's 20 years later.
I guess they were going for he's good now, so he doesn't have a mustache.
Yeah,
only bad
people
hair.
have mustache, man.
Yeah. Does that opening scene take place in Wyoming? I don't remember because I was trying to piece because he said something about sinners sure as hell don't go to Wyoming before he hangs the guy. So I thought that's what it was telling us, that it took place in Wyoming.
I'm not sure. I kind of lost track because this is the main part of the film is definitely in Montana, but it was like when Montana became incorporated, because the marshal talks about how Colton can't run around killing people anymore because he's in a state now. And like Montana, I feel like Montana and Wyoming were like kind of two territories that were kind of together at the same time, but I don't know, man. I lost track. I wanted to count Wyoming when I first did the film, but I can't confirm.
Okay.
It was all filmed in Montana, so
we just have Montana and Colorado confirmed for this movie.
Oh yeah, Colorado. That's right. Fuck.
Yeah, because they go to Denver at one point.
That's right.
The climax is in Denver.
Santa Rosa.
Oh, Santa Rosa. That's
Rosa.
it. They thought they mentioned near Denver,
which is 2 days from Denver, apparently.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think it actually exists, but I'm not positive.
I was hoping we could add Wyoming to the list. That's why I was wondering.
Do you guys think that we had Wyoming? I don't know.
It's you can't confirm it. It's all I noticed from that line when he says, sinners sure as hell don't go to Wyoming, and or wherever it is sinners end up, and he says sure as hell isn't Wyoming, which I took to mean they're in Wyoming for that opening scene, because I don't know why else he'd say that.
Okay. Oh man, I don't want to devote 3 states to this.
I don't know what else we're gonna get Wyoming in there, so it might be our only chance.
Yeah, true. Okay, in, baby.
Continue.
We'll just say the first part takes place in Wyoming. No one's going to care or question us on it.
That's true. That is true.
We see a lovely homestead in Montana where Colton has settled down and left the gunslinger life behind him and now dresses like a dork. We see his wife Ruth hanging clothes while she watches on dotingly, and she laments for the mustache rides of yore. Oh, how it just tickled her right.
Fuck.
She asks him to walk their daughter Brooke to school since she needs to finish hanging the laundry, much to his chagrin. He grumpily walks her to school, and the Little House on the Prairie theme song starts playing. Now, they just argue about whether they should have taken their sad old horse rather than walk. But of course, if they had just taken the horse, we wouldn't have had a second and third act. At the school,
I guess they would have. I don't know. They wouldn't have, he would have taken Brooke home, right?
Yeah, because he would have had the horse.
Took her home.
They had an argument because he says, we don't have enough time to saddle the horse and then get to town. And she says, well, if you just taken the horse, it would have saved all the time we're spending walking, so you'd have enough time to double back. And he checks his watch, which is a recurring thing. Yeah.
What was with that, by the way?
His reoccurring watch thing is he's always looking at his wife's face.
It's his wife's portrait at the end. So it's her giving him advice, basically. Which I thought was a nice little reveal.
Yeah.
It makes it seem like he's just checking the time, because it's like, well, maybe he's just really anal about time management.
I just wish he didn't do that stupid look he gives when he opens the watch. What are you looking at?
I think it was like he's supposed to. It kind of felt like maybe he's like autistic a little bit, like he's always checking the time and keeping track of things, and then we find out he basically has no emotions, so it's like thing. But then they add a nice little twist at the end where there's more meaning to it. But
there was a thing, and the director talked about of like what drew him to the project initially was basically you have 2 characters who are on the spectrum who are the main characters in a Western. And that was kind of the crux of it, was like them finding love in each other, even though they have no emotions. I don't know if that's 100% true.
In a better movie that could have come through a little better. I can definitely see that. I just don't think the execution was quite there.
Again, I think it was time constraints. I would imagine it was fleshed out much better in the original script. But
anyway, at the school, we find out that Brooke's teacher is sick, so she has to spend the day working with her dad at the store, which I guess he's also pissed about for some reason, even though think he'd be fine with it. We don't really get a sense at this point that he doesn't really care about his daughter. I mean, I guess this is the sense of it. Like, he doesn't want to hang out with her or anything like that.
He doesn't want to have to babysit her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's see, just shoot her, but I guess that comes later. Ironically, Colton became a mercantile like that dude from the opening, and I guess he's hung dozens of thieves from his own sign over the years.
It's because you're blessed with a higher power if you own a store.
Yeah, you can kill whoever you want. It steals from you.
Maybe that guy was Jeremiah Sands' distant relative.
He tells his daughter to sit at the table and shut up while a dirty fat guy rambles on incessantly about his mom eating ingredients to bake a cake for the church potluck and how the apples in their backyard taste like shit since the tree was planted by an outhouse, as Colton stares at him like he wants to blast the guy in the face just like in the old days. I think we all want to.
Yeah.
Listen to this guy's asinine story.
It's funny because it's like he's this cold-blooded murderer who has, lived this life of violence, and then he settled down just because he loves that woman so much, and then he has to be forced to listen to asinine stories from these fucking people.
I mean, if you've got a problem with killing people, you shouldn't get a job in customer service because you 100% kill people.
This is when I text you guys. Is this movie supposed to be a comedy?
Yeah. Just that look on his face is so great.
One of my Coppola or Cagiest moments is just his stares at different people.
The dirty fat guy says his mom needs some flour, so Colton heads upstairs to get it, and the guy uses his dirty shit-covered hands to steal some jelly beans, but quickly puts them back when he realizes Colton's daughter saw him steal from a notorious murderer. He's gonna need to just throw that whole jar out. But maybe this was before germ theory, so they don't know to do that.
Ugh.
She snitches on the guy the second he walks out of the store, so Colton tasks her with cleaning them up, so she Rain Mans the fuck out of the jelly beans. Sorts them all by color, cleans them one at a time, and sorts them all into individually colored jars. While we watch the whole process. For some reason.
They said they wanted to set up her headspace, so we could get to know that she is, OCD and and obviously Colton is too.
Mm-hmm. Pygmies.
This is stalking prefects behind the counter.
Oh shit, man.
Back home, Ruth is visited by a fun little gang of outlaws led by James McCallister, a.k.a. Opie from the beginning. Yep, that stupid kid with the dumb face is our antagonist. He asks her if she and his companions can rest at her house, and we see that Opie has a couple of buddies named Boots and Big Mike who creepily follow her as she tries to get inside the house. And Big Mike was played by the guy who played Jerry on ER, which I was totally distracted by the whole time because I haven't seen that guy in anything ever since that show, and I watched that show for years. So I was like, oh my God, it's Jerry.
He seems to be in a lot of these kind of like small budget films nowadays.
It's pretty good. He's great in ER, so it was nice to see him again after all these years.
I will say one strong point of this movie is each one of the side characters feels like a fleshed out character. They don't feel like just cookie cutter Western guys. Each one of them seems to have their own motivations and a sense of purpose.
They felt more rounded out than the antagonist did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's probably the strength of the actors that play them, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clint Howard never phones in a performance, and it's always just some goofy guy. But
Clint Howard, is always weird as hell, but he's always great. No matter what role he's in, he's memorable as hell in anything he does. I mean, he's always great.
Yeah. Which is great. Great for him.
Yeah.
It's got to be weird living in your brother's shadow like that, but still making your own. But you're also this
thing,
goofy looking guy. And so you just sort of, you don't coast on that, but that's sort of his thing. I don't know. A lot of respect for Clint Howard.
Yep.
She tells them their husband will be along anytime, but James says he just saw him in town with a little girl, and they all giggle at the thought of a grown man walking a girl to school, while she gets increasingly more uncomfortable. As they get closer to her, she tosses the laundry at Big Mike and tries to head inside, but is met by the most frightening sight imaginable, Clint Howard. It's the ice cream man!
I'm glad that you guys know the ice cream man, because I feel like that's such a lost.
I was watching it on Riff Tracks the other day.
Were you really?
There's a Riff Tracks channel on Pluto, and so I put it on as background noise, and it was on.
That's hilarious. Dude.
That movie is so fucked up, and he is so creepy in that movie.
Yeah, yep.
And hilarious at the same time.
Mm-hmm. She knees Clint, a.k.a. Eustace, which is like the perfect name for Clint Howard in a Western. Knees him in the junk and hightails it toward the family barn. They follow her into the barn where there's some alpacas and some weird thing monster. I don't know. Reminded me of the barn from Color Out of Space, just in case anybody doesn't know. They follow her into the barn while Eustace tries to convince James they need to leave the girl alone or else they might get caught by a marshal that is apparently on their trail. Boots tells him to shut his damn mouth with a gun to his face, so I'm guessing they're not super fond of having that creepy guy from the Ice Cream Man in their gang. Ruth charges out towards them on a horse, but before she can get away, James guns down the horse and Boots pistol whips her. Inside the barn, James spots Colton's saddle and decides to send him a message. Ruth tells them they're in for a world of hurt, and when the rest of the gang find out she's the wife of Colton Briggs, they're terrified. She goes on to say they hit her in the face, broke her arm, and shot Colton's horse, so you boys have woke up the devil. Jimmy laughs in her face while the rest of them shit their pants, but James says he owes Colton a debt, and we cut to Colton and Brooke closing up shop at the Mercantile. Brooke asks why her mom didn't come to get her, and Colton realizes that something's wrong since she should have come back to get her if the school was closed, right?
No, she's going to pick her up after school.
That's right. And if she's school, and she would have seen the school was closed and come over to the store and ask what the hell happened. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Two of them head home only to find the aforementioned marshal and his men making themselves at home inside Colton's house. The Old West, where you could just pop into someone else's house, eat their food, make a fire. Marshall's probably wearing Colton slippers. Yeah. Well, to be fair, he thought the whole family had been murdered, so why not just make yourselves at home?
I guess. Yeah.
Marshall apologizes for moving into his house and using his toothbrush, and then suddenly recognizes Colton. He's shocked to see Colton has settled down and eventually lets him know that Ruth is dead. Next, we see Colton digging a grave for his wife in the yard while his daughter watches from the porch with the marshal. He tells her that her mom must have been an amazing woman if she was able to tame the violent psychopath she calls her dad. He says Colton was the meanest son of a bitch he ever met and would look at people like he was looking through them. Exactly what a young girl wants to hear after her mom's been murdered. He goes on to say that her only tether to this world now is that her mom, now that her mom is dead, is an evil, violent man who killed people without even breaking a sweat. So she just asks what we're all thinking. Why are you telling me this? And he says, for exposition. Actually, he says, I just want you to understand how good a woman your mama was. She took the coldest killer I've ever met and turned him into a family man. Then she says, why don't you just tell me what's going on in plain English without the mumbo jumbo? You know, like from the Family Man.
Please just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
Brooke says she's never even seen her father hold a gun, and the marshal says that's because he's a good man now. By the way, like a minute from now, he almost blasts his daughter in the face, but never mind that. She asks the marshal if her father's still a good man now that her mom's dead, and he just looks at her dumbfounded.
From the yard, he's like, she took my bell.
Just shoveling dirt onto her.
That'd be when he's pointing the gun at her and she wakes up. Took my bell.
You took my bell.
Next, we see Colton hammering at a cross to mark his wife's grave. Seems kind of messed up to put the grave like 3 feet from the porch, but whatever. It's fertilizer now. The marshal asks if he should say a few words, and Colton says,
You said plenty of words. None of them helped.
the marshal tells him his wife's killer's left a mess in the barn, so he might want to whip out a garden hose before his daughter sees it.
Just hose that down real quick.
Spray that shit down.
Oh, by the way, see ya.
Isn't that kind of your job to clean up the murder scene?
Yeah, no, we just eat your food.
Fuck that. It's gross, man.
Start a fire and eat your food and track mud all through your house. We're taking off.
Took a dump in your toilet. Still in there. Sorry. I didn't know that you didn't have a flusher.
They left you on protector. Sorry, cool.
Me and my boys ain't never seen no plumbing before. We thought you're supposed to sit up on the upper part. Colton asks for the names of the men who did this after the marshal says he's got a good idea where they're headed, but he'd rather the world never see old Colton Briggs again. Briggs asks again for the names, but the marshal says his daughter needs the man she knows and loves rather than the murderous nutcase he used to be. He finishes by saying he'll make sure Ruth's killers pay the price, and as long as Colton's little girl is alive, there's no room for vengeance in his life. Which is a poor choice of words. The marshal and his
say that to the cold-blooded killer.
Yeah.
The marshal and his men head off into the night while Colton investigates the mess in the barn where he sees her bloody handprint on his saddle, which makes him break down in tears. Then he spots a message on the wall in his wife's blood that says, "I owe you more," echoing what Colton said to the mercantile at the beginning of the film.
Remember that throwaway thing?
Wait, that's what that was referenced to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it was his dad he said it to before he killed him. Or no, it was the mercantile he said it to.
So the mercantile, he didn't even. It wasn't even talking to his dad.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was saying what? Wait, is he the? Oh my God, that's the twist. Is he's the other guy's kid?
Yeah, he's the guy who was hanging. Yeah,
no. He was the mercantile guy's kid.
Mercantile's kid.
That's the twist.
Didn't realize. He was watching from the window the whole time.
He didn't actually shoot that guy. He left that guy alive. It just took the money and left.
Well, I
didn't even realize he was a criminal. Like, to be honest, I thought he was like, I thought he was like some hired gun that.
No, I don't think he was
or something.
I think he was just a hired gun, and
he's like, "Oh, you didn't pay me enough, so I'm not saving your life."
He's a gunslinger, bro.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that this mercantile paid a bounty to him to bring this guy in, and that's right. He was owed that money.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Anyways, we're explaining the plot of the movie that is supposed to explain it to the audience.
They should have just had the marshal explain everything because he did a pretty good job.
He did really good. I like that actor.
Talk. Yeah, I like that actor. I don't know, I've ever seen him in anything, but he did a pretty good job in this.
Only westerns.
Yeah.
We should just have him narrate the whole movie while we're watching it.
He's the white Morgan Freeman.
Then Colton tells her to go, "Wham, wham, my baby."
Act 2, The Conflict.
Later that night, Colton sobs over his dearly departed for a few seconds before busting out his long-neglected killing box from a chest or something in the living room. He just keeps his guns right there in the living room.
It's there. Yeah, it's the coffee table.
Didn't baby-proof that house very well. He quickly loads a revolver and says to himself,
"As long as she's alive."
Then heads up to the loft to unload the only remaining burden in his life. Brooke wakes up to see her maniac dad pointing a gun at her head and says, "Mama wouldn't like you pointing that gun at me." That's her like go-to, is like every time her dad does something insane, she's like, "Mama wouldn't really like you to do that." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't kill people. I shouldn't shoot my daughter."
Marshal helpfully told her the only reason he does anything is because her mama made his life better.
True.
Mama said not to shoot me, Daddy.
Colton comes to his senses and puts the gun away while Brooke just goes back to sleep like nothing even happened. Just go right back to bed.
It's the Wild West.
She kind of mentions later on that like this is the moment where she started feeling dead inside, which makes sense. But at the same time, she kind of also makes it seem like she's felt that way since she was a child as well. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. That she's always wondered what was wrong with her because she can't act normal either.
Yeah. I think it's the culminate. It echoes what Colton tells her when his mom had died or his parents died or whatever, and he didn't feel anything. And that's what kind of made him realize he was really fucked up. Maybe that's her, like, I guess it's there when she asks the marshal, like, why am I not crying or whatever? My mom's dead and I don't really feel anything. Like, what the hell's wrong with me? Doesn't she say something like that? Like, am I a bad person?
He says it.
Feeling it? Oh,
the marshal is like, you think that was strange that she didn't cry at all? Like, I shed more tears about her than she did.
Yeah.
I didn't even know the woman. He comes back upstairs after, almost killing his daughter and chucks a pair of pants at her and tells her to get dressed. A few minutes later, the two of them stand outside ready for vengeance, and Colton burns the house and the barn down, which really kind of fucks over Brooke later in life.
Just like
he's going back to the old way.
He's like, we're never coming back. But it's like, well, what if you die, Dad? I need to be able to come back home somewhere.
Well, she's still got the mercantile. She can live there for a bit.
She's got the mercantile. I guess there's an upstairs. She can sleep on a bag of flour.
Yeah.
Or downstairs with the jelly beans.
I'm guessing that's what happens at the end. That's part of my Coppola questions is like, what happens to Brooke after everything? And like, how does she spend that money that's from Mexico? We'll get to it. There. She heads to Mexico.
She starts a small restaurant, Casa Bonita.
Yeah. Outside of Denver.
Which, like, okay, I didn't really think about it until just now, but like, it feels like they like followed them for like 2 days and they went from Montana to Colorado.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that till right now. Anyways, since they only have one horse, Brooke tells her dad they'll never catch up to the bad men unless they get another. And he says, well, we'll find another along the way. We'll just murder somebody for it.
Yeah, just take it. It's like Red Dead Redemption.
Yep. They both watch emotionless as their old life burns away before heading on down the dusty trail. Just a couple on the spectrum sociopaths trying to make their way in this wicked world.
To go back to your other thing, that's part of why I also thought this took place in Wyoming, not Montana, because Wyoming's next to Colorado. So
that does make sense.
They were right across the border. They could have potentially gotten to Denver in maybe 2 days.
If you look at the map from, I don't know what time this actually happens. I'm assuming like around the turn of the century. I wonder where Montana ended. Maybe it actually stretched into.
Let's see. When did Colorado become a state? That was 1876. So this is probably the 1880s.
Okay.
Because also Eustis is wearing a Confederate
so it's
uniform like he was a younger man during the Civil War.
When did Montana become incorporated, though?
They never say that Colorado is a state. They say that Montana is a state.
Okay, statehood in Montana. Doing more research than they did for. That was 1889.
Okay, so Colorado was a state before Montana. But like, what was the border of Montana at that time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did it stretch down to Colorado? Maybe Wyoming was incorporated into Montana territory or something.
Maybe there's the Montana territory. I don't know. This is too much work for this movie. Who cares?
Anyways,
I guarantee you they didn't even do this much research.
I mean, you can get from Montana to Colorado in 2 days, apparently.
Right.
On horse.
On a horse
Half of it you're just walking. Anyways, the next morning, Brooke asks why he burned up all her clothes and school books, since she'll presumably need those once her teacher is no longer sick. And he explains that they're never going back. He says as soon as he finishes what he has to do, they'll find a new place and will replace everything she lost aside from her deep-seated fear that her dad will one day kill her in her sleep. She says he can replace everything except Mama. And for a brief moment, they drop their cyborg expressions and both seem to have emotions. She seems like their mom or her mom is the only like emotional like driving force for either of them, really. And now that she's gone, they're both just robots.
Yeah.
Or as they said back then, robots. They stop for a rest, and Colton asks his daughter for her oversized belt. So she asks, "Are you going to whoop me?" What a charming relationship they seem to have. So, the only times that he ever interacted with her over all these years was just to beat her. He takes the belt and tells her to get 30 minutes of sleep and says they'll do that every 4 hours until they catch Opie and his gang. Like, it really is... I glossed over how fucking far that would be.
Yeah,
how many days it would take.
Does it say that they're in Montana at some point?
Yeah, it says that they're. Yeah,
because I missed that, and I just assumed they were in Wyoming the whole time, and that was like, it's close enough that it could.
I thought they were in Wyoming,
but they had to go all the way from Montana down through Wyoming to get down to at least Denver.
He makes it clear that they're in Montana when they round up the sheriffs.
That's why I'm wondering if like Montana was bigger, because remember the states used to be huge back in the good old days when they first got incorporated, and then they slowly changed borders over time.
And if they had just been incorporated, the borders probably hadn't been defined just yet, I would imagine.
Yeah.
They were probably still carving everything out.
So it's possible that he was in Wyoming, but it was Montana territory at the time. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm trying to explain away the fact it took them 2 days to fucking catch up to these people.
4 days
from
more
Montana to Colorado.
4 days more of shooting may have cleared it up.
Yeah, it's true.
They could have tacked on 2 more days of their ride. They had 4 days of shooting.
He tells her it's not enough that they find the men. They need to be ready to kill them, so they'd better get their rest. You see, back then, this guy was a ruthless killer since he hardly feels emotions. But nowadays, he'd be a CEO or of a Fortune 500 or in Congress. Back then, he was just kind of a outcast. But
God damn it.
We cut to the marshal and his men, where he asks if the little girl seems strange since she barely reacted to her mom being dead. He goes on to say he never even met the woman, and he cried more about her death than her own hollow-eyed children of the corn daughter. They reckon she was just shocked by the news and not an emotionless monster like her dad. Meanwhile, James and his men ambush the posse from the cliffs above, and the marshal is shocked to find he and his men have wandered into an obvious trap. I mean, the oldest trick in the book is just high ground. Yeah. I guess, they're hot on the trail of these dudes, but yeah, you would think you'd be watching out in these types of situations. Several of the marshal's men are shot in the melee, but when James realizes Colton isn't with them, he and his boys break off the fight. He's also mad that they didn't shoot the marshal first and that they jumped the gun and just started shooting random dudes and wanted to get rid of the marshal first. The
only competent one who's in the posse.
Yeah. Back at the Briggs camp, Brooke wakes up to find her psychopath dad staring at her dead-eyed while she sleeps. Almost as scary as waking up to Clint Howard. He says he heard gunshots coming from across the canyon, which, okay, so again with the timeline, how did he catch up to them so fast? I mean, I guess they left only a couple hours behind them, but they would have been multiple hours behind James McCallister and his group of dudes.
They probably posted up shortly after leaving to to set up that ambush to make sure they got them before they got to Colorado. So I can understand that.
She asks why he didn't wake her to head towards the shots, and he says,
No reason to hurry. Gunshots might have a way of speeding some folks up, but they have a nasty habit of slowing other folks down.
What does that mean?
Whatever. I don't know what that means. Maybe because they get shot?
Yeah, or dead. But then it's like, what if the people you're trying to catch are the ones that got slowed down or sped up? Shouldn't you speed up to catch the people?
Man, no reason to hurry. Gunshots might have a way of speeding some folks up. They have a nasty habit of slowing other folks down. What's so hard to understand? He gives her back her belt and they head towards the canyon. Back with the gang, James smacks Boots for not shooting the marshal first and says he's gone to enormous pain to have Colton Briggs come find them. But Boots left a perfectly good lawman between them. What enormous, I guess killing the woman.
I guess
Ruth.
scheduling, figuring out this whole thing, figuring out where Colton lives because he's sort of not known anymore.
Yeah, I guess so.
Orchestrating this whole thing because we know his ultimate plan is to eventually flee down to Mexico or something. So he's had this plan years in the making, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he was in jail for a lot of that time. How did he figure out where Colton was? I mean, Colton never changed his name, but back in those days, you could just move to the state over and nobody would ever hear from you again. So
clearly Colton wasn't using Surfshark to protect himself.
Found him instantly online. Just a quick Google search.
Good to see him searching Facebook. Oh, there he is. He shaved his mustache, but he looks the same.
He opened up.
How is he not aged a day? This is crazy.
He's goddamn Dracula.
Might be catfished.
Then he calls him a puss in boots and then goofily laughs in his face while asking if he's working against him. And he's a puss in. Boots recoils and says he just messed up and won't stop the evil killing machine on their trail from catching up with them, even though it will most certainly lead to their collective deaths, letting Colton catch up to them. It's funny because they all know who he is. There was one of them who didn't know who Colton was.
I think it was a younger guy.
Was it Boots?
Boots.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Boots. Yeah, both Mike and Eustace knew.
Oh, yeah, Eustace and
been around for a while.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Brooke and Colton happen upon an injured deputy, and when Colton tells her he needs the guy's horse, Brooke tells him, Mama wouldn't like you killing no lawman, and suggests they try a different tactic. He also looks at his watch there to see what Ruth would do. What would Ruth do? He's got that "What would Jesus do" bracelet. It's just in his pocket watch.
He's got a tattooed WWRD.
He tells her to wait in the trail and get the guy to stop by pretending to cry, and she says she doesn't know how. Since she's the offspring of the Terminator. Colton says, now you listen to me. People in this world expect you to act like they do. They expect you to laugh at their jokes and sigh at their babies and cry at their funerals. And if you can't learn how to do those things, they won't accept you. They'll push you out. Do you want to make it in this world? Do you want to fit in? Then you're going to have to figure out how to act like them. Then Brooke and Colton remove their faces, revealing that they're both animatronic robots, and it's revealed that this is secretly a spinoff of Westworld. That would be great. Ed Harris shows up. Next, he asks her if she remembers when the Parsons daughter died and how the girl's mother cried. Then he imitates someone crying over their dead daughter like they were morons for feeling emotions and tells Brooke to pretend to cry the same way. And he says, "Wah, wah, my baby, my baby." And she imitates him hilariously bad.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
A little louder. Wah, wah, my baby, my baby.
Wah, wah, my baby, my baby.
Wah, wah, my baby. Might be my favorite moment of the movie.
Mine too.
She stands in the trail and the injured deputy saunters up on his horse to her going, "Wah, wah, wah, my baby," like a robot. And is understandably confused. Honestly, was probably more of an effective distraction than if she actually cried.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is happening?
Wah, 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 wah.
Okay, little girl.
Wah, my baby, my baby. Wah.
Baby, what baby? What are you getting at?
Wah.
It's one of them witches they always be telling me about.
Just imagine happening upon that. Like, I don't know, you're just walking down an alley and there's some girl like standing stone faced staring at you going, "Wah, wah, my baby, my baby."
I've seen enough horror films I'd turn around and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I'm out of here, man. Colton then puts a gun to the lawman's head and steals his horse. We cut to the marshal and one of his injured men still hiding out from the gang in the canyon. And the deputy we saw just get robbed of his horse shows up with Brooke holding a gun on him from behind. Colton appears out of nowhere and puts a gun to the marshal, who tells him he gets that he's upset, but he needs to let him and his men go. "You haven't done it. You haven't committed any crimes you can't walk away from yet." That's the sweet cat.
Yeah.
Not that other one.
No, I don't notice. I don't have any posters behind me for him to tear off the wall.
Starts knocking the Funko Pops off there.
He's moving the camera.
Moving the whole monitor. Come here.
Colton tells Brooke to grab one of the men's shotguns, and the guy says he'll blow this little girl's brains all over the valley, but quickly changes his tune when Brooke stomps on his broken leg. She tells her dad,
He cries pretty good. I'm gonna try to do it like him next time.
It's just, this is the creepiest scene from her.
Yeah.
Especially what's coming up here in a second. Colton ties everyone up and sharpens a knife by a fire while Brooke looks for firewood so Colton can heat up a rusty nail of some sort. I think it's like from the railroad or something.
Yeah.
One of those
like
big giant
spike.
nails. The marshal tries to reason with Briggs, saying he hasn't committed any crimes he can't walk away from, since he's probably assuming Colton's about to go medieval on their asses with that nail. The marshal says if he kills him, he'll have a level of trouble he's never encountered before. And Briggs says,
Are you sure about that?
So has Colton killed a marshal before?
I think was the
I'm
implication.
sure.
Yeah. I feel like...
or he's at least been on the run from marshals for something he did.
There's an insinuation that he's done some pretty messed up stuff back in the old times. Next, we see Colton emotionlessly jamming a hot nail through the marshal's head. That would have been great, though. The marshal tells him he's making his daughter an accessory by holding the men and not allowing them to go get medical attention. And Colton says, no, you are, by not telling me what I need to know. Then he says, hey, Briggs, Hey, Briggs, I'm too old for this shit.
There it is. Knew that joke was going to show up somewhere.
Yeah, I was wondering when you were going to make that joke.
Brooke returns with firewood, and Colton says, "Good, put it on the fire. We'll be ready to start soon." Some ominous, creepy stuff. The marshal tells him if anything happens to his men, he'll hunt down Briggs and kill him himself. And Colton says,
Like you hunted down the man who killed my wife?
I mean, they're trying to, but
they're trying.
You got him tied up here.
One of them got shot over it. The other one's got his leg broke.
I mean, to be fair, he just failed.
True.
The marshal just failed.
True.
Yeah.
It's like they're not going to be able to continue on the trail of this dude. They'd have to break off the search at that point. And if if Briggs wasn't there, you know, they probably would have gotten away.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Though James wants him to follow him the whole time. Anyway, it's all very confusing how he expected Colton to follow him. I guess he just knew that he was a great tracker, so he would find him eventually anyway.
I'm being smothered.
He tells Brooke to rip the shirt of the guy who was shot in the arm and tells her to put a stick in his mouth. Before he can get to work, the marshal tells Briggs the name of the man responsible for killing his wife, the men who ride with him, and that McCallister promised his gang a share of a lockbox that he has stashed somewhere. He says the gang busted out of prison and are headed to Colorado to a town named Santa Rosa, which is 2 days' ride outside of Denver, apparently. And
so maybe at this point, it just time jumps forward and they pass through all of Montana to get down to Santa Rosa. And we just don't see it or have a sense of that happening.
Yeah, what happens right after this one? Like, they don't actually catch up with the gang until Santa Rosa. So
yeah,
I guess we could just chalk it up to a time jump. Anyways, after spilling the beans, Colton gives him a thank you nod and then cuts the bullet out of the injured guy's arm and cauterizes the wound with the heated up nail, much to the marshal's surprise, which is why he gets to be buried a hero later on, by the way. When he burns the man's flesh, Brooks says,
"Smells like Mama's rabbit chops."
Oh, that's the whiskey.
Makes me hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Such a cute kid. Ugh. Colton tells the marshal if he gets to Santa Rosa and there's no James McCallister, he'll come back and kill them all. He says he's just going to leave them there.
Right.
And then he's going to ride all the way to Colorado. And then he's going to ride all the way back if James McCallister's not there. And kill them. It's all very confusing.
I've seen.
It's just like in Raising Arizona when it's like, hell with this. And when he's counting and then he stands up and the car's coming back at him. They steal the marshal's horse and Colton says he'll leave it tied up in Santa Rosa. The marshal yells after him that justice will find him while Brooke looks through him just like her dad. We cut to the gang digging up the previously mentioned lockbox buried in an old barn somewhere. The gang are pissed to find the cash is all from a Mexican bank, since I'm guessing the peso had about the same exchange rate back then that it does now. Sorry, Vince. You have a lot of that Mexican money. Most of your money's tied up in that Mexican lockbox that you got.
Yeah, it's not such a great retirement
plan. $3.80 now.
One of these days, the Mexican economy will turn around.
One of these decades.
One of these decades. One of these centuries. James pulls
Maybe
a gun
the
on
cartels completely control everything there.
God,
yeah, it'll be like Al Qaeda in Afghanistan.
You know how
cartels can run a business
if the cartels ran that whole country. Making money left and right, dude.
Yeah. James pulls a gun on them and says if he was crossing them, they'd already be dead. He says they need to lay low, and what better place to do that than in Mexico? And with the money they have, they can live like kings down there for as long as they want. He says that they got to hang out for like a year in Mexico.
It's one of those extradition-free countries.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like every movie. This trope.
Just go to Mexico.
Go to Mexico. Go to any Central American country. Mm-hmm. Be fine.
Be really easy to get lost in Mexico back then. You wouldn't stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Whitest gringo.
White guys.
Yeah. I mean, Boots could fit in.
Young Guns,
Wasn't Boots kind
Boots
of a
good.
Hispanic-looking guy?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Probably doesn't speak Spanish, but...
Anyways, the gang again reluctantly decide to stick with their scumbag of a boss and are worried about Briggs catching up to them since they now have to stick with this douche to get their money. He does say that like they did all split up right then, but they stick with him, and I find that kind of confusing. Of like, this dude is just a asshole who just like tells them what to do. He never does anything himself, including kill Colton. I mean, like he makes it a ultimatum of like, well, you either save your daughter or let me shoot you, or like, like the guy's a loser. Just leave him.
Yeah, but they want that money.
They could have taken it right now. He said, we could divide it up. He probably would have ended up killing them.
Yeah,
but
that's why I figured that's why
they staged, because they knew he would shoot. He would shoot them.
But aren't they like better at it than he is? The guy never shows any. Yeah, they could just like kill him right then and take the money. Anyways, McCallister says Briggs is hunting them, so the best course of action is to head exactly where he'll expect them to be in Santa Rosa so that they can ambush him, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which this was McCallister's, plan the entire time.
Right.
Get revenge on a guy who does not remember him in the slightest. Opie looking motherfucker. We cut to Colton and Brooks setting up camp. Colton pulls a cross from a grave for firewood, and when Brooks says it was on somebody's grave, he says, so? Nothing belongs to the dead because the dead don't need anything. Only living need to possess things. The living need food, water, shelter, clothes, family, money, land. I forget how he says it. He's real condescending about it. But the dead have everything they have already been tended to. Once they're put in the ground, they have all they need. They're not selfish. I like the dead. Apparently that was a Cage ad lib, the I like the dead thing, which I
that's pretty nice. I like it.
Really good, yeah.
Works for the actor.
That was my quote of the film, is that little monologue.
There's too many self-indulgent wieners among the
living. The gang ride into Santa Rosa, and Eustace again questions James's leadership, with them riding into town fully exposed. But McCallister reassures the gang by saying the sheriff is in Denver, which is at least 2 days' ride away. So it'll be at least 4 days before any law can come and arrest them. So I guess it would take 2 days to get over to Denver, then 2 days for the sheriff to come back.
Yeah.
Did they have telegrams back in these days? I guess not.
It did, but I don't know if the lines were there.
That's true.
From some podunk town like Santa Rosa.
Yeah. Again, it's like so it's 2 days ride to Denver, but it would have been probably at least a week ride from Montana, if not, twice that. I don't know. But we just skipped over that.
Yeah.
He tells his men to set up guard around the edge of town and let him know if anyone rides in, anyone whatsoever, while he bangs some prostitutes. Dude seems like a real dick. Literally never does anything for himself. I hate this guy as a character. Maybe that's what we're supposed to.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to hate him. Like him.
But like he's so like arrogant and cocky about everything, and then he never shows any sign of being able to back up that cockiness. Not even at the end. Like nothing. Not at no point does this guy paint himself as like an actual badass. He says, there's a devil inside of me and two devils can't live on this planet at the same time. It's like, dude, you think way too highly of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Eustace takes first watch since he's, the creepy weirdo of the bunch, while the rest of the gang smash some whores and post up in the brothel with the lockbox. Back with Briggs, Brooke asks her dad about how he used to kill people, and that the marshal said Colton gave up his life of killing for Mama. I have to call her Mama. That's how she says it. Colton tells her that his entire life he knew he was different and theorized that he was an alien from another planet. No, wait, that's actually what Nicolas Cage said. He still says that sometimes, like, I don't think I was ever born of this earth. Colton says he never cried or laughed as a baby, but got pretty good at pretending to not be a soulless sociopath by, acting like the other kids and stuff.
Yeah, this is just him talking about being an actor.
It's just Cage talking.
I got really good at making people think that I was good at expressing myself.
Yeah. He says he never felt fear, but saw it in the eyes of every man he ever met. He recounts a story of a man catching up to him in a bathhouse after Colton killed some of his friends, and the guy held a gun on him while Briggs was cold, naked, sitting in a tub, but the guy was too scared to shoot him. Probably intimidated by the python staring at him from in the bubble bath, just like poking up. Anyways, Colton just stood up, grabbed his gun, and killed the guy while little Colton watched on in terror. He continues this lovely bedtime story for his 12-year-old daughter and says that he felt like he had been born dead inside and he had never known fear once in his life until he met her mother. He breaks down as he recounts the fear he felt of her potentially not talking to him or loving him or becoming his wife, and the fear of losing her. He also says she was the only thing he ever feared and the only thing he ever loved, which is cool to say to your daughter, because your mom is the only thing I ever loved. Definitely not you.
Well, he did point a gun at her a couple nights ago. Yeah. So I think she already knows that.
Yeah. Brooke says she's also dead inside and feels completely lost, but her dad reassures her that she will someday, maybe, I guess. I don't know. She'll feel something again, which she does at the end, of course. I put it in your act, Vince, but like it'd be so funny if she was just like over the top of his dead body going, wham, wham, my baby, my baby.
Fuck.
She asks if he knows the man who killed her mom, and he, of course, has no idea, since it could be any of the hundreds of kids he orphaned over the years. It's like he doesn't know what this dude looks like. He has no idea who it is at all.
Yeah.
Because it was probably a completely throwaway thing for him to say, paid in full and you owe me more, that whole thing. Why would I ever think of those words again?
Right.
Brooke then asks if he can teach her to shoot so we can usher in a new cold-blooded, soulless psychopath killer into the world. Just what we need.
Act 3, The Resolution.
Back in Santa Rosa, we see that Eustace fell asleep while on watch, so anyone could just stroll into town. Not that it matters in the slightest. Meanwhile, Colton teaches Brooke how to shoot with a rifle, but it's too heavy for her, so she tries the pistol and manages to blast a couple holes in her hat. And her dad just seems pretty happy his daughter is following him into the family business, which is murdering people.
I think she's going to be great at it.
I think so too.
She's already got a leg up, you know? No
it's in her
emotions.
genes.
It's in her genes, man.
We cut to James chowing down at the brothel. Chowing down on food, that is. Not that other thing. Eustace comes in mad that those turkey bungholes never relieved him of duty last night.
I wonder how much of his lines were just improv from Clint Howard.
He's had a lot
Turkey
of practice.
bungholes.
Yeah. Saying outlandish things as characters.
Yeah. They all condescendingly apologize, but then ask why he didn't come get them. And McCallister breaks Eustace's finger for falling asleep. You can really see why these guys follow him. He's a real motivational leader. On a ridge overlooking Santa Rosa, Colton sees there is only one way into town, so if he rides in, they'll surely spot him, since McCallister knows what he looks like, but he has no idea of what that Opie-looking doofus looks like, so Brooke volunteers to go down to do some recon for him. He tells her to ride into town, pretend she's there on an errand, and head straight for the Mercantile. He tells her to buy something and casually ask if any riders have come through town, and then come straight back to him with the info. Brooke proceeds to repeat what that shit-covered yokel said to Colton earlier in his store about needing flour to make a cake since her mom can't make a pie since the apples taste like shit for being too close to an outhouse. She does so well, obviously pretending to be normal and not dead inside or a little soulless monster.
That was my one like major argument with the music was how goofy it got in that scene.
Yeah. It did actually remind me of Bad Lieutenant. Just kind of like goofy, pointless music. She leaves with the flower, but Cool and the gang are already outside waiting for her since they recognized her immediately from when Briggs was walking her to school. Also doesn't help that the saddle on her horse says Colton Briggs and it still has a bloody handprint from her mom on it.
One of my questions is, why would he send her into town with that fucking saddle on there?
Maybe he was sacrificing her to draw out the guys.
This will surely distract him. This little girl will die.
I'm not killing you, so mama can't be mad if they kill you.
It's not me doing it.
It's not me doing it.
You can see that being his logic.
His logic, yeah.
I will come back and get my saddle, though. That means something to me.
I actually care about that saddle. McCallister asks her where her daddy is, while Brooke stares at him with a pouty look on her face. At the brothel, James gives Brooke some delicious Colorado Mexican food, which sounds great until you realize Colorado is where Casa Bonita is located. Now, don't get me wrong. Casa Bonita is an American treasure, but that was by far the worst Mexican food I've ever eaten. Fucking Taco Bell is better Mexican food than what we ate at Casa Bonita.
Oh, yeah.
Sopapillas.
Sopapillas are all right.
Those are good. Those were probably the best part of the
sopapillas
whole
were the
meal.
best part. Yeah,
that and the cliff divers. Those hunky cliff
dancing
divers.
gorilla.
Anyways, he tells his men to guard all entrances into town and to stay out of sight, so Briggs can get into the middle of town to see a message they have left for him. Eustace suggests they kill Colton the second they get a chance, and Brooke says, it sounds like he's the one who's scared, since James said she's probably too scared to eat.
Couldn't
James
Colton have come from any direction, really? Like, it's not like there isn't another way into town. It's just there's only one way with a horse.
There's only one way with an arch.
Yeah, with an arch.
By old Wild West rules, you have to walk through the place with the archway.
I guess he's old, so maybe he can't climb as good as he used to. But I feel
it looked like it was just a wide open.
Yeah, it was wide
town.
open.
There's no wall or anything.
Fences.
I'm not jumping over
literally
any
any direction.
Sacrifice my daughter to go into town.
James tells Brooke they're related since Colton Briggs killed his dad and turned him into the monster he is today. You know, this badass gunslinger he's shown no evidence of being once in this entire movie, who just tells everyone else to do everything for him while he sits around grinning like a dickwad.
You know, I think if there was a better script and a better movie, you could have that parallel between Colton's upbringing of Brooke, turning her into kind of the soulless monster that he used to be, and this guy is, you know, his inattentiveness to killing this guy's dad 20 years ago, creating him into the monster. But this movie just kind of tells you that rather than showing it or having it done in any well-crafted manner.
I really feel like it suffers from, you know, those lack of days, among other things. But yeah, I feel like that was maybe the biggest part, was just kind of like, didn't have time to flesh things out the way that they really needed to in order to tell these stories. This is also like a combo of 3 different movies.
True.
It's like Unforgiven, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and like
True Grit.
True Grit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you just threw those into a stew and then put autistic people in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I feel like even with the time constraint, they could have shown Colton to be more of a soulless character. Like they could have shown him just murder his Colton's wife in cold blood, just boom. But they kill her off screen, and then he could have killed his gang. He could have had more than 3 fucking dudes with him or whatever.
Yeah,
he could have killed
one of them or 2 of them.
He could have. They could have done things.
He broke Clint Howard's finger though.
He did.
True.
I feel like killing Ruth off screen makes a lot of sense because she's kind of the emotional center of this movie. And like, you know, you need to fall in love with her a little bit to understand why Colton gave up the life that he had before. And to show her die on screen just, I feel like, would have been too much.
Yeah.
I think you could have done it where you don't show her death, but it's clear he's the one that's like, you do that thing, that cheesy thing where it's on him. He's pointing the gun at her, looking at like towards the camera, and then you cut to outside the barn and you hear the gunshot. I think they could have done little things to kind of add in, like, this guy has no fucking soul. He killed her with no remorse. He doesn't give a shit about the guys that he's got with him. He's like, his sole purpose is to extract his revenge on Briggs. But I think I don't know.
We don't even really get a sense of how she died, which maybe is a good thing because, you know,
I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
The insinuation would be something really dark.
Yeah, like Colton didn't actually see it, so we just have to get to infer all the horrible things that happened to her. Yeah. We don't even get to really see the mess they left other than the bloody handprint stuff, but we get to see his reaction to it, and it's something that's pretty horrible. So,
and the writing in her blood.
We do see like a big blood circle.
Yeah.
I'm guessing she was just shot, but I don't know.
I'm guessing it was a little more than that.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah, I don't want to. The Old West. We know what happened. 4 dudes. Anyways.
Up on the ridge, Colton decides to head into town, says his daughter has been gone too long. Luckily, James, crack squad, just let him waltz into town while McCallister swaps out all the money in the lockbox with newspaper in case they decide to steal it and run. It's the oldest trick in the book. Also, James just seems to be getting trashed on whiskey this whole third act rather than trying to be ready to take out his revenge, and just seems to be counting on his boys getting butchered by Briggs, which means if they did, he'd be the only one who could stop him. So it seems like it would make a little more sense to stay ready in this situation. I don't know. Hey, I guess that's just me.
What's he going to use those pesos for? Not a lot of options in the old Wild West towns. Just drinkers,
tequila, and bang
I'll say the only the point where I was like, wow, that's pretty good acting from this guy was his drunk slurring while he's talking to Brooke in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did a pretty good job of doing that. He kind of had that real drunk feel to his speech. Same time,
which I guess it makes sense if it's
the whole idea here, just going to get trashed in this brothel.
I guess it makes
saloon.
sense if it was supposed to be a nighttime scene that didn't take place like immediately before what ends up being the climax.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it was the night before or something.
Well, the director said that he wanted it to feel like the ending of Unforgiven, where Clint Eastwood came into town while it was dark and raining and wanted that ominous feel of like, the killer is out, you know. But they gave him 12 hours. He had 12 hours to film all of the night shots.
Wow.
He said he had to pull out an extra camera, so he had 3 cameras running at once so that he could get reaction shots in the moment. And he said he has a tendency to only get 4 takes each time he does any scene. So they had to run and gun do that entire shootout that we see in this movie that's about to happen in 12 hours. Like, wow. That's crazy, dude.
Give them a lot of credit. And I'm surprised that lady didn't kill anybody during that time. It doesn't seem like enough time for her to properly check weapons.
Yeah, how could they get some extra shooting in at the range with those days cut off of their, of their shooting schedule? Must have sucked.
Man.
Couldn't take the prop guns out to go target practice.
I remember reading something where she had said something about like putting live bullets into her guns and stuff, and like wanted to make sure that the guns actually shot real bullets so that it looked more realistic. Why would you do that?
Nowadays, you have post effects for that.
Dude, there is no reason to have an operable gun on any of these anymore, because like you can do everything with CG, and the guns are so good with the props that they look real. Even if they're not even firing blanks, like they look real with just the little caps, like back in Vampire's Kiss. They've perfected that a lot since then.
Yeah.
It's just, it makes no sense.
Yeah, I think you're going to start seeing them transition out.
Especially after Rust, man.
After Rust. And I know a lot of studios were kind of pushing for that anyways. There's just no need to. Just take that danger out, extra danger.
Completely unnecessary,
Yeah. McCallister says 2 devils can exist at the same time. So Brooke's dad needs to die so the devil inside him can come out, to which Brooke says,
Oh, I get it. You're crazy.
But she says her father will be here real soon and fix that. This is what I was hoping desperately, that this was an unofficial trequel to Ghost Rider. And he was going to come in and his head was going to be on fire and whipping people with his chain.
Show that he's the original Spirit of Vengeance.
Yeah.
The guy they talk about.
He
Wasn't
just
Sam Elliott.
transforms into Sam Elliott.
That would be awesome.
Instead of transforming into his skull, he's just Sam
Elliott.
Sometimes a man needs to pay what's owed.
Sometimes a man
paid in full.
As James stuffs the rest of the money into his saddlebag, he says he's glad they've had this time to get to know each other, since after he kills her dad, he'll be her new daddy. Which isn't creepy at all. Guys, we only have like 12 minutes to go in this thing, and and all we've seen is this asshole chit chat with Colton's daughter in a brothel for an entire act. I'm starting to think the climax is going to be a little anticlimactic. Briggs rides straight into town full speed while doofus Big Mike struggles to open a door. Big Mike waits for Briggs to ride by, but wouldn't you know it, Colton jumped off his horse and was waiting for Mike inside. Guess there was a second unlocked entrance. Big Mike should have probably tried that one.
You'd think he would have thought about that ahead of time.
Yeah.
No, these guys ain't that smart. Big Mike stumbles out with a knife in his back, with Briggs, Michael Myers style, walking behind him. Once he catches up, he slits Big Mike's throat, turning him into a big dyke. The waterway. Not the other thing. I want to be very clear, we're talking about the waterway here.
He's a big dyke.
You don't know what a dyke is?
Yeah, I don't get the...
He's bleeding a lot.
He's bleeding profusely. Never mind.
A lot of
it's a
liquid
period
coming
joke.
out of him.
No. Jesus Christ. We're going to get canceled. Inside the brothel that has taken up this entire thrilling conclusion, James leads Brooke outside saying, "Let's go see Pa." Colton makes quick work of Puss in Boots, but Eustace manages to land a slug in Briggs' arm. James sends a couple Mexicans who are apparently part of his gang, even though that was never set up, to flush out Briggs from a mercantile.
I thought they were just two guys that he paid in the town to just go do it. Seemed like it. Anyway.
So when Colton first starts firing at Boots, there's another guy who's like a Mexican dude who apparently is part of their gang now, even though we never established that at any point. I guess probably cut for time.
Yeah.
Something with Maria.
I figured they got into town and they just hired some people at the saloon to be his hired guns. He's some extra muscle.
I'm sure in the edit they were like, yeah, people will just assume that.
Yeah, I guess.
Where did these guys come from?
Who knows?
How many of them are there? There's only 3. So,
did you guys kind of find it weird that there's just a lot of mercantiles in this? Or like the writer never learned about any other old timey Western shops.
Yeah.
Only mercantiles.
That's all they had. They're called General Store. It's right there in the name. They did everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been like an apothecary or a cobbler. Just mercantile. That's
farrier, stable, any other shops.
Mercantile. It's the only word I know, man.
The prop department can only build, or the set construction can only make one type of building.
We made one mercantile sign. We're going to use it, goddamn it.
We got to use it, goddamn it. We got 4 days slashed off.
Yeah, there was one, I think it was before the first entrance into this town. They said that there was a storm the day before and they weren't able to actually properly dress the town. So they had to just roll with it and do it on the fly. I'm like, God, man, just sounds like a nightmare trying to put together your film with all these restrictions.
Yeah. I'm going to point out once again that James sends somebody else to go after Briggs rather than do it himself. Briggs kills the Mexicans off screen because just showing it would be too exciting and or interesting. Opie yells to Briggs,
"Briggs, I'm calling you out. Ain't that what you boys used to do? Call each other out? Settle your differences in the street? Let's do this the old way."
Hey, that's the name of the movie. Old way. Briggs comes out stumbling, much to the delight of the grinning doofus, while Eustace holds a gun on Brooke, and we see a sign in red paint that reads "Paid in Full" over the brothel. James says, "Hello, handsome. Remember me?" Colton says, "Weren't you my kid in that other movie or something?" Briggs says he doesn't remember him, which makes James sad since he based his whole life on getting revenge on somebody who probably thought more about the dump he took that morning than the kid he orphaned 20 years ago. Colton tells his daughter not to worry and that he's okay, while what will do for an antagonist in this movie tries to remind Briggs who the hell he is. James says they're going to have a showdown and Colton will have the opportunity to put a bullet in his head just like he did his daddy. Rather than fight fair, though, he gives Briggs an ultimatum saying he can either shoot him, which will cause Eustace to kill Brooke, or save his daughter by letting James kill him and take his place. Again, this guy just thinks he's the second coming of the devil, but won't even allow Briggs a chance. I mean, he has to fucking find a cowardice way to get the one up on Briggs.
And he's over the moon that Briggs is injured. So he won't be able to fight him fair anyway.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't have this, setup of like, well, you either kill me or kill your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Commodus in Gladiator.
Yeah.
Cheating at the end.
At the end. Colton tells Brooke,
"I have all I need. See that I'm tended to."
echoing his speech about the dad from earlier, and tells her he loves her for the first, last, and only time in her life before gunning down Eustace. James then shoots Colton in the chest as Brooke screams in horror. She runs to her dad, while the worst gunslinger of all time celebrates what a badass he is and giggles to himself like an idiot, saying,
I did it! I killed Colton Briggs! I killed him! You hear that, Daddy?
Brooke cries over her dying dad for a second, then whips around and shoots McCallister once in the chest, then in the head, as James says,
It's you. You're the monster.
Fucking stupid. Like, Colton gives Brooke
the devil, man.
Colton gives Brooke a pocket watch with Ruth's picture in it and says, your mother, she'll tell you what to do. He dies and Brooke cries, wah, wah, my baby, my baby.
It's so fucking hilarious.
That was so awesome if that's how she mourned him.
He still has no emotion whatsoever. That's kind of the idea, I guess, is, you know, they both find emotion throughout this. You know, like that whole speech around the fire was kind of him realizing a bunch of things about himself, and then her also realizing that she's the same as him, and then she comes out of her shell at this point. This is her kind of returning to, you know, consciousness of emotion. Though I'm guessing that she still is, you know,
dead inside
for the rest of her life until she finds her love, I guess. I don't know.
The marshal we saw earlier rides into town and is not surprised by the scene he finds. He tells Brooke he thought he might bring her in for what she and her daddy did, but he knows a judge would throw the case out since they were blind with rage over her mom's murder, even though he knows that's not quite true. But instead, he decided he'll tell the law she and her daddy saved his deputy's life, tracked down Ruth's killers, and Colton was killed in the process of their apprehension. Anyways, he decides to let her go home, and her dad will be buried a hero rather than a criminal, and she gets to keep the store, though she has no place to live thanks to her dad burning down the fucking farm. Her homestead.
He wasn't coming back, at least.
Yeah, he wasn't going back.
But what if
I think
things
he was
didn't
going to
go
suicide both of them afterwards.
Yeah, probably. That would have been a fucked up way for the movie to end.
Just
kills Sarah and kills himself in the middle of the square.
He fucking offs them. Well, we ain't got no home, so
wow. Ain't got no emotions anyway.
She asked the girl from the brothel to fetch her brother's saddlebag so she can get home. And I guess we're left knowing she went back to the town her mom was murdered in, homeless, to mind a mercantile store at 12 years old with a load of Mexican money she can't spend on the other side of the border. But hey, at least her dad died a hero rather than a caterpillar mustache sporting psychopath. The end.
She just goes back to school the next week. She's closer to school now.
Man.
She didn't even miss the day of school, you know?
Yeah. And she's right across the street from
her. Sick. So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I guess we can get into it in the questions, but
yeah,
you know, what does she do now? Anyways, yeah.
People grew up fast in the Old West. They can perfectly find and run a store at 12 years old. She can count jelly beans. Yeah, she can run a store.
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
All right, let's get into the questions, and because that is my biggest question of like, what happens to her life after this? Like, does she stay at the store? Does she have does she somehow switch out that Mexican money, get real money? No offense, Mexico.
Well, I mean, it's not going to do her any good in the States. She can't use
and they also said it's not a lot of money up in the States, even if she did manage to exchange it.
Yeah, but they made a big deal about her getting it, of like, go fetch his saddlebag and I'll take that money. I feel like at one point he was like switching the money out for like something else too. Like, I feel like he had actual cash. Maybe that was something that was lost in the edit, but
Could be.
Because he was switching out for newspaper, giving them the fake money, and then he was going to take the money and bail. But I also thought maybe he had like real, American cash there at the same time. But I don't know. I imagine
he could have been exchanging it. I mean, he could have exchanged it in the town.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like that town probably wouldn't be suited to do that.
Yeah, I'd probably have to do it in like Denver or somewhere.
Yeah,
a little bit better for that.
Yeah,
but I think they also made a point, like even though it's a lot of money in pesos, it's not a lot of money in dollars. So even if it's basically not enough to live off of in the U.S., which is why they were going to go to Mexico and live with it.
Well, I mean, maybe for Ruth it would be a lot of money, but not for a bunch of drinking whoring cowboys.
She can actually use it.
Yeah.
Put it into the store or something and she still got revenue from the store. It was obviously enough for them to live off of before.
Yeah. I think the insinuation was that she was going to use it to build a new homestead and then go run the store and maybe become a cold-blooded psychopath like her dad at some point. I don't know.
I don't know. Just a sequel where it's just her in Mexico
the new way.
On the beach.
The
new way. She's just on the beach in Mexico, sipping Mai Tais, running cartels.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I was left with, it's like, okay, her dad taught her the meaning of love, and she's kind of come back to being, a normal-ish person. She's still going to have the same kind of emotionless stuff because she's OCD, she's on the spectrum and all that kind of stuff, but like she at least can feel, and she's not going to follow her dad because she looks at the pocket watch and she can see her mom, and that's going to lead her decision making from here on out. I think that's what we're supposed to be left with in that moment. I don't really understand the money thing, but like apparently there was a planned shot that was going to end the movie on focusing on the saddlebags and then a drone shot out, like watching her go home on her horse. So it was going to be even more of a big deal. So I don't know what we're supposed to be left with that, because she can't spend it in the United States.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Anyways, more questions than answers when it comes to that. We sort of answered this in the moment, but why don't McCallister's men just ditch him? Because he's a dick. The dude's a terrible leader. He's leading them down this road of like tempting a dude out of retirement to come and murder all of them. Like a guy who's obviously a cold-blooded killer who is responsible for some pretty heinous shit in the past, to the point where 3 out of the 4 of them know exactly who he is.
Yeah.
He's legendary for being a fucking murderer.
Maybe they're just all henchmen types, some people aren't leaders, and he just found these pathetic guys to do what he says because they need someone to be their crime boss or something, and he's the closest they got.
I really think they knew he would kill them if they left. So it's better to stay with him and fight it out than get shot in the back as your lead.
But like you said earlier, why didn't they just kill him then at that point, take the money and leave? Like they don't they don't care about Colton. Like they don't need to get revenge on him.
They should have, because they're his only henchmen. It's not like he's got a bunch of other people be gunning for him.
He doesn't have like a big crime network or some gang. It's just these 3 guys.
I guess there was supposed to be some subtext of Boots and McCallister like fighting for control of the gang, which we saw a little bit there when he Boots screwed up by not shooting the marshal first, and he kind of backs down and accepts his role. But I think that was supposed to be a thing. Yeah. And in that moment, like, just take the money and go. It's like the 3 of them easily killed this dude in his sleep or something and take off.
They could have killed him when he was banging that hooker. You're pretty vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, at that point, they're kind of like all against Clint Howard.
Yeah, they're all against
They
all don't like Eustace. This fucking guy.
This weirdo.
Weirdo fuck.
we sort of answered. Well, we didn't really answer this, but like, wouldn't Colton have realized his daughter's horse has a saddle with his name on it?
Yeah, that was just dumb. I bet you that was just a way for them to speed up the story because they had that condensed timeline. Because otherwise, that's just lazy writing, and I don't think that this was meant to be lazy. Now that we talked about the timeline being shrunk by 4 days.
Yeah.
It's a pretty stupid mistake for a guy who seems to be as cold and calculating as Colton Briggs.
It also could have been a way for them to tell us, the audience, because we're dumb. Like, hey, like this is just like reaffirming that they know it's her in case we forgot that they saw them walking into town.
Yeah. I mean, you could mistake some other 12-year-old kid for being, a different kid, but you can't mistake her when she has a saddle that says Colton Briggs, has her mom's bloody handprint on it still.
Yeah, which is just dumb for Briggs. I mean, that I don't know. For me, that I felt like somebody like Briggs would not have made that mistake. It would have had to be intentional. But it doesn't seem intentional at all because he just walks into their ambush. I mean, he knew it was an ambush, but still walks into it.
So he came to rescue his daughter, which at this point is now the only thing he cares about.
Mm-hmm.
Why would James get trashed rather than stay sharp to fight Briggs in that last part? I guess it's, if we think about it from the filmmaking standpoint, they had to speed this along and it was supposed to be two different things, but at the end of the day, we have to put the onus on the filmmaking of they're trying to tell a story. And when you're watching this movie, there's no title that comes up and says, well, we would have done this if we had had time. It's like,
maybe, I don't know. Maybe maybe we're supposed to take from this that he thinks he's a badass.
Yeah.
But he's really not. And he's just an alcoholic loser.
I think that he probably had some inkling that he was going to die as well, and just decided to get trashed because he knew the Reaper was coming. He just wanted to have one moment of acknowledgement from Colton Briggs that you killed my dad, and I haven't gotten over it. My whole fucking life has been ruined because of you. And I think that he figured that Colton would probably end up killing him because obviously this dude is not very good.
Yeah.
Colton is 1,000 times better than him, though he is 20 years older and very out of practice, but still. That's my only theory of that. I was like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Getting drunk because he knows he's about to die.
Yeah, that makes sense too. He never planned on making it out of it alive. He said, he just wanted him to recognize that he killed his father, and he wants him to know that he's the one that is ending his life now.
I think he did plan on killing Brooke as revenge, but I don't think he ever thought he was going to be able to accomplish killing Colton.
Mm-hmm.
This, I guess, is not really a question, but what do you think he really meant by your mother will tell you what to do? Is it just Brooks, got these two people in her? Obviously, she's got her mom and she's got her dad. So it's always look towards your mom's side of you and not the psycho side of you.
I think it's that. And it's just, she turned Colton's life around and was that voice of reason and calm and made him into a better person. So having that constant reminder whenever he was unsure of what to do, he'd look at that and could hear her in his mind telling him what to do. Yeah, it just makes it funny. When he does it, I'm just imagining him in the morning when he's like, couldn't he just take in the horse? And he looks at it can I just kill her? No, I'm tired of dealing with this task. No, she wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll walk to school.
Yeah, I think it is use your mom as your moral compass. Her guide your decision.
The only good he has in himself is from her, so he's passing that on to his daughter so she can do the same thing for her. Because now he knows his daughter is like him and is kind of a psycho and doesn't empathize with people. So, that guiding hand from Ruth is what she's going to need to get through life now too. Just like he did.
Yeah. I don't think he realized that until that scene around the fire when she's like, I didn't feel anything when Mom died, and like I just felt lost, and so I think that was like him realizing, oh fuck, I passed that on to her.
Yeah.
Whoops.
The other one that I had was if we take what's his name? The bad guy.
James McCallister.
McCallister. If we take McCallister at his word, was he planning on actually adopting Brooke and like keeping her around? Like, doesn't he know that she's just going to do the same thing he did and just kill him at some point because she's only going to be obsessed with getting revenge for killing her dad?
I don't know. I don't know what the plan was there. I feel like he planned to kill her in front of Colton. I think that was what his end game was there, to make up for him killing his dad, years ago. But I don't know. Maybe it's the Old West. He could have just married her.
Yeah, but again, like if that's the plan, it's really stupid because
she's just
going to kill him.
Yeah.
She's going to be as obsessed with killing him as he was with killing her dad for killing his dad.
Maybe he'll torture her like Reek on Game of Thrones.
Oh my God.
Slowly break her.
I could see him thinking that'll work out and then having it not because he sucks.
Yeah, and he thinks that she's just a normal kid.
Yeah.
And not, just like Colton Briggs.
That's true. Maybe he's just thinking, oh, she's just this girl. Like, she's a meek girl. I can handle a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never thought she was going to fucking kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
right, because he says
hesitate.
It's you, whatever he says. You're the devil or whatever. Fuck, I didn't realize.
It's not me. It never was, obviously.
It's time to keep track. Here are the final stats.
Nigel, do you want to hit us with the old curse tracker?
Yeah, there's just one. He says "damn" one time.
Wow.
And that's it. It's actually one of the things I kind of liked about the character. You imagine an old grizzled murderer from the Old West would swear a lot, but he really doesn't. He says, I think he says like, damn it, one time he's getting exacerbated with something Brooke is telling him or saying to him. I can't quite remember the context of it, but yeah.
I feel like it was something where he was like, you just follow me, damn it, or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. It's when they were on the horse, I think. All right. So that brings our total count up to 603.
Wow. One curse through the whole movie.
Yeah, one curse. That's it. It was just one use of damn.
As we've said many times, we're only counting Nick Cage. We're not counting all curses.
Other people swore a lot, but he had a pretty clean mouth, which I don't know if that's just was supposed to be a character. I feel like if it was up to Cage, he might have sworn more, but maybe not. Maybe it's just the character's all business and doesn't like swearing, or maybe that's part of his like turned his life around. He doesn't swear anymore.
Yeah, I bet that. Once he shaved that mustache, he cleaned up his mouth.
Became a respectable mercantile.
That mustache was the dirtiest thing about his face. Runtime. This is only a 95-minute long film, which was shot in 18 days. So I guess that totally makes sense. But that's pretty low on the spectrum as far as our film runtimes. Mercifully, I feel like it was like The Rock was very long.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was our last film? Our film,
Arsenal,
and The Old Way have been very short, so it's been nice. Our next film is pretty long, so jumping around a little bit. Nudity for this season, we've so far had 0 instances, 3 movies in, but that's going to change substantially in our next movie.
Yeah. I think we're going to make up for the 0 nudity over the last 3 films.
That this might be the most instances of nudity in any film that we've done. The wild part will be.
Yeah.
State and Country Tracker, we debated this of like, I think that we were supposed to be, the implication was we were in Wyoming in the opening scene. Then we go to Montana. And then somehow we speed run across from Montana to Colorado, which is a very long distance. Even in a car, that takes a while. So I think we ended up with 3 states, and none of those states we had ever been to before. That brings us up to 20 total states. I think we should just count it. We say it certainly isn't Wyoming. So I think that cements us in Wyoming. And then we say Montana's a state now. So that's Montana. And then Santa Rosa is obviously in Colorado. So yeah, even though the whole movie was shot in Montana, every scene was shot in Montana.
Yeah.
The movie is telling us that we've been to these 3 different states. So otherwise, we may never have another instance of Wyoming.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Colorado. I mean, I feel like I looked at one point like wondering whether or not we ever went to Colorado because we wanted to wear our Casa Bonita shirts for
I know, damn it.
Damn it. I didn't even think about it.
Budget versus gross. I have no idea how much this cost. If I had to guess, I would say $3 to $5 million. Which they did a lot with what they had. I feel like they did a really great job with like the interiors, especially in the beginning, with their homestead and the mercantile. This was actually a set that was built for another movie, and this is the second time that it's been used, so they reused it. I don't know what that first movie was. He never said in the commentary, but he said that it was built for a much higher budget movie and they were able to reuse it, and so they were able to capitalize on that budget that they didn't have for this movie.
That's cool.
And they used it for the opening, the town that they're in when we go to Briggs Mercantile and Santa Rosa. So all 3 of the Old West towns that we visit in this movie are all the same town redressed.
Yeah.
So they did a good job with that. It was believable. I thought it was good. Old West definitely felt legit. It made $59,729. So that brings our grand total up to $1.007.7 billion budget with a $2.318 billion gross over the course of our 33 movies, because we have those 2 that don't count, Dying of the Light and The Best of Times. So it's more than double so far. I feel like it's gonna end up like maybe triple because of some of the bigger action movies that we still have yet to do.
Yeah.
On our list of top grossing films, this is now the 4th lowest grand total we've ever had, sandwiched between Prisoners of the Ghostland and Arsenal at 59,000.
Ouch.
I mean,
it's a better movie than both of those.
This is definitely a better movie. For all its faults, I feel like this is actually a solid middle tier type movie. Definitely did the best with what they had, which you can't say for Arsenal. Like that movie was shot in 13 days, so you had 5 less days on that. But still, like it's an incoherent mess. Like The Old Way makes sense.
Yeah,
it's boring in a lot of points, but it makes sense throughout, and it's a coherent story. Prisoners of the Ghostland is not coherent ever at any moment in the entire movie. So there's that. This did get a rating. It's like, why didn't they put this thing out wider? Cage had just come off of Pig and Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Why wasn't The Old Way put into more theaters?
Maybe they were doing a producer situation where they wanted it to bomb so they could claim an insurance write-off.
Maybe.
They never wanted this thing to make money. There's no fucking way. Because they're right. They could have at
least got a couple million just by sticking it in theaters and attaching Nick Cage's name to it.
Yeah, they could have shotgunned off of Massive
Especially
Talent.
now after, Massive Talent and Pig and Mandy and all those other recent critical hits.
I mean, Renfield is coming out wide. So why not? Why didn't The Old Way? I mean, I know it was an indie movie, very low budget, but still.
What did Pig make? I can't remember. What
not much. I think it was like $3.8 million.
Yeah, and that was Pig. Like that.
Yeah.
I feel like a Western with Nicolas Cage automatically has more appeal than a movie about a guy missing a pig. And that still managed to make a few $1,000,000. So
yeah, well, that also had that critical acclaim, and I don't think they were planning on releasing that in theaters. I think is because it got so much hype behind it that it came out and a lot of people wanted to go see it, myself included.
Yeah.
So I never had any moment where I was like, man, I need to go and see The Old Way in the theater.
No, yeah. I mean, just for the show, I wanted to. But other than that, like if we weren't doing the show, I'd be like, yeah, this is something I'll just catch on Netflix.
Anyways, this did get a rating, so it got an R rating, which brings us up to 17 total. Running away with it now, R rateds. And that leads us to the kill tracker.
All right, he had 11 confirmed kills in this one. So
wow, that's higher than I thought.
Yeah, he piled up some bodies there. I mean, it all took place at the very beginning and the very end. but yeah, which brings us to a total of 176 kills. And then he died, as we saw, which brings us to 11. So we're starting to add some more deaths to the tracker.
Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, so far the last two in a row, spoilers.
Back to back. Yeah, back to back for the last two.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the like lower budget movies he ends up dying.
It's probably going to be a theme going forward as we watch more of those direct to streaming ones.
Yeah.
Where does this meh mound of mediocrity land? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
Okay, that leads us over to the most important question of the show. Vince, where does The Old Way 2023 rate on your Cageometer?
All right. I wanted to be really critical of this film. And then I stopped and I was like, okay, I'll wait until I learn more about it when Patrick breaks down all the quick facts and whatnot, which I'm glad I did. Because I just felt like the third act just rushed to get to the conclusion. No way. So I can't be as critical on them when they were shorted 4 days of filming, which forced them to have to pivot. And knowing that, I definitely appreciate what they got out of the ending, because it could have been even way fucking worse. They hadn't been able to just kind of figure something out and make it coherent, like a coherent ending. Aside from that, I mean, it's just kind of your, like you said, it's like you take 3 popular Western films and you cram them into one. And I don't think they executed very well on it. Talked a little bit about how I felt like they could have made Colton out to be more of a badass, but maybe the whole time he's not supposed to be. It's just what he tells himself to make himself.
I mean,
feel like
McCallister.
McCallister. Yeah, sorry, McCallister. Make McCallister feel like a badass. You know, like he has to hype himself up to try to extract his revenge, but at the end of the day, he's not, which is why he has to take the cowardice way out every single time. So I don't know. Maybe that's just something that got lost in translation. And
I think it fits. That's a step on you thing, but I think it fits the character because it's like he's obsessed. He's obsessed over his dad being killed, and he's obsessed with Colton. It's like he doesn't have his own identity. He's just sort of feels like he has to be a badass so he can revenge his daddy, but like he just has some issues there. So
I feel like we fleshed that out by talking about it. I don't think the film did a good job at presenting that. That's how it's supposed to be. Like we talked about, he's a wet blanket of a character. He's a poor antagonist. He doesn't really do anything. But overall, I mean, it was a middle of the road movie. So I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It could have been a lot better. It could have been a lot worse. A lot worse.
Could have been Arsenal.
It could have been Arsenal. Could have been a lot worse.
This movie benefited from watching right after Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Be a lot more forgiving.
I'll give it a 5 out of 10. I think it's a middle road. It was enjoyable. I thought it could have been a lot better. But at the end of the day, I didn't end up hating the film. I did not sit there and cringe every second I was watching this fucking thing. As far as Nick's performance, I'll give him the same 5 out of 10. I don't know if that's being a little too critical. I just kind of felt like there wasn't much added by him. Once again, I don't know how much that had to do with them compressing everything or doing any kind of changes to the script. But I also didn't feel like he did anything to really take me out of the film too much. You know, it's maybe I'm becoming immune to his Cageisms. But
I feel like the cagey moments were very, very sparse in this movie. I had a hard time even finding enough to count. I feel like, this is, I mean, even going back to like Pig, this is the most stoic we've ever seen Cage in a film.
Yeah.
Which was by design.
Yeah.
You know.
He just kind of, I feel like, if I compare his performance from this to Pig, in Pig, I felt like he added and brought more depth to that character, to Robin in that film. Versus this one, I feel like I get where he was going for. I personally don't think he pulled it off. I think it just came out for me a little too flat. But it wasn't bad performance by any means. So like middle of the road performance. We've seen him do better. We've seen him do worse. Kind of the theme for my rating on this movie and his performance. So fives across the board. Fives across the board for me.
Nigel, where does the old way rate on your Cageometer?
I feel largely the same. It was a really predictable movie. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was like the story is really, it's you got this setup where they kill his wife and he's gonna go catch him. And then he catches them. And like, that's the movie. It doesn't really, there's a little bit of that. There's that emotional story of him and his daughter and their development together. But the plot of the movie is basically, here's what's going to happen. It happens. The end, you know, it's like really formulaic. But, I just feel like, you know, I was excited by the prospect of Nick Cage being in a Western. And in the year of our Lord 2023, if you make a Western, there's not a lot of them being made these days. If you make one, I feel like it should be a lot more exceptional than just this kind of cut and paste plot that they did. And like you said, they just took 3 different Westerns and shoved elements of all 3 of them into one. They did add that spin of, you know, the 2 main characters being on the spectrum, which you don't tend to see in historical dramas at all, but specifically in Westerns. So that was kind of an interesting take. I just don't think the movie was good enough to execute it, and that could be for a lot of reasons. The director, the budget, the studio cutting shooting time off, not giving it a chance to grow. I think in a better script with a better studio with a better production team, this could have been a much better movie. So I give it a 5 out of 10 as well. It's the same for the same reasoning. It's not bad. It's a decent Western if you want to just throw it on an afternoon and watch it. If you're curious about what Nick Cage would be like in a Western, it's a good vehicle for that. It's just middle of the road.
Yeah.
It's kind of my thoughts
not
on
memorable. Just kind of, I don't know.
I'd say watch it if you're curious about that, but there's no real reason to not watch it, but there's no real reason to go out of your way and watch it, I guess. And it's not like Arsenal where I can't recommend it to anybody. Yeah.
Stay away from
I
Arsenal.
can recommend this to people if they're curious about watching a Western with Nick Cage. It's all right.
Yeah.
You know, if it's on cable or something, or it's on Netflix, you know, and you got an afternoon free, throw it on.
It's nice and short, you know.
Yeah, that's another nice part about it. It did feel like that third act just sort of happened. Like it was like the second act was basically them talking over a campfire about their feelings. And they're also going to catch up with these guys. And then they're there. They're just at the town. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're in the third act now. And I did the same thing too when he was talking, when McCallister's talking to Brooke in the giving her the Mexican food, and they're having that chat. And I checked the timestamp. Like, there's 12 minutes left in this movie. Like, really? This feels like we're at the beginning of setting up a third act, and we're going to have some kind of other stuff that happened. But no, I guess we're starting the third act, and then it's over. But it makes sense now knowing what happened behind the scenes, and they had 4 days slashed off their production, and they couldn't film the third act that they wanted to actually film. So, again, we've said it before. Props for giving a complete story with what they were given, especially during production, not being told they're not allowed to do what they wanted to do. So I think they did a good out of it. But yeah, as for Cage himself, I actually really liked him in this role. I'll be more generous than Vince and give him a 7 out of 10. My reasoning for it is I felt like he did bring something to the character. It felt like a performance that he liked giving. I don't know if it's because it was his first Western he got to do, or the character was interesting to him. It wasn't just a standard badass gunslinger guy. It was a gunslinger guy who's on the spectrum and doesn't have feelings, and trying to explore that a little bit more. I mean, you could say that maybe about a Clint Eastwood character from A Fistful of Dollars. He's a remorseless, I guess he's got a moral compass in that stuff, but you could say that about a lot of those, that archetype of a Western characters. They don't have feelings. They get the job done, and they're cold-blooded killers and stuff. But what if you really wanted to explore somebody who was realistically like that and didn't feel emotions and didn't have human connections and tried to settle down and have a life? So I think I really would have liked to see this character in a better movie. I think again, I keep saying that. I wish this movie had been better, but if Nick Cage as Colton Briggs had been in a much better written and directed and produced film, I think it would have been a much better, could have had a much better result from that.
Yeah.
But that's not to say his acting in this movie was bad. I think it elevated the movie because of it. It's just kind of a shame we didn't get to see the full potential of him being this character. So, yeah.
Yeah, the premise is good, but execution.
Yeah. And I didn't think his accent was distracting. It was a pretty decent Southern accent compared to, stuff like Con Air that we've seen where it's like he's doing a bad Forrest Gump impression or something. It felt more natural, and he kind of felt like he embodied this character. It was an enjoyable performance from me.
He doesn't really have too much of an accent. He just has like little Westernisms here and there.
Western American accent.
And if we go by Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, it's not really.
But it clearly wasn't just like Nick Cage's normal speaking voice. It was
he changed up his cadence,
giving the character some kind of unique flavor. So, and he was suitably, I felt, menacing and badass. Like a lot of the characters talked about how scary and menacing he was, and I felt like he had that kind of undercurrent to his character. It wasn't like McCallister, where everybody just said he's a bad guy, and you all kind of have to just believe it because they say it. It felt like the stare that he gives the fat guy in the store, and just the way he acts around his daughter, and the way that the marshal talks to him, and how he talks to the marshal. You kind of get that feeling of there's a lot more going on with this guy than what we're seeing, which fits the story as we're being told, and what we're seeing of this guy at this point in his life. So, I'll give him credit for that too.
On my Cageometer, I'll echo all the same stuff. I mean, it's just middle of the road. I do feel like the visuals really popped in this. The towns that they had, the landscapes are beautiful. I mean, it's a really gorgeously shot film. But it's just, I don't know, it's just so cookie cutter and mediocre in a lot of ways. It's just kind of like, we didn't really spend enough time with a lot of the characters to really get to know them. We didn't really develop, this bad guy is so like boring and just a wet blanket. Like we said. So I gave it a 5 as well. It's just like, it's okay. It's not great. There's nothing memorable about it. Maybe the Spectrum stuff is kind of memorable, but like you said, if it was executed better, it'd be better. I think other Westerns, they like kind of, imply that they're these remorseless killers, but then we find out that they've just been burying their emotions deep down. But in this, we really get the sense that these people are actually like sociopaths. They don't feel remorse. They don't feel, emotion. Though they do, you see the emotions come out. which might just be, you know, actors with actual emotions trying to act like emotionless people. But like Cage, you know, like when he's staring that dude down in the Mercantile, like there's almost like tears in his eyes of hate.
Yeah.
Like, I just want this fucker to die. But, you know, like I didn't hate the music as much as you guys. I felt like the music was pretty decent. Like I said, the visuals, the acting across the board, I feel like most of the characters were pretty well fleshed out. You know, down to even like the guys, just the random characters who show up in the house that are just sitting around the table.
Oh, yeah.
Like even those guys seem to have something, you know, a character to them. They seem fleshed out. I felt like Ruth is really probably the most important character in this entire movie to pull you in and make you understand why Briggs turned into the person that he turned into. And I thought they really did a great job with Kerry Knuppe, I think is her name. Nope. Something like that. And then the kid is pretty good. I feel like if she's not believable, nothing is, you know. So having found that one perfect kid for this role must have been very hard. Like we said, it is over 500 kids they auditioned, and she was the last one. And that was probably, they were like, oh, this kid's nailed it. Let's just stop the auditions right now. Direction, you know, it's as good as it can be for what they had. Like I said, you know, as an audience, we're not supposed to know all this shit that happens behind the scenes. Yeah. We know it because we dive into this stuff. So we're more forgiving because we know that stuff. But like, if you just watch the movie, I mean, like there's 12 minutes to go in the movie and nothing has happened in the final act. Like our big badass moment that we've been building up to for, you know, 80 some odd minutes. It's like just so smashed together because they had no time to film it. And it makes sense from a production standpoint, but from a film watcher standpoint, it's like, God, they really rushed through that final battle. Right. That all happens off camera. like everybody that Cage kills is off camera.
Yeah. All that build up just for that.
Yeah.
That's just disappointing.
The only person we get to see him shoot is Eustace in that final battle. He doesn't even get to kill the main bad guy. It's the kid who does it. So it's, you know, I wish it would have been a little better for Cage's first Western, but maybe Butcher's Crossing will be better. I don't know. I hope that he does more of these because I do think that he fits that genre very well, especially now that he's older. I think he can do these types of characters that are more grizzled and have been through some shit. If we would have saw 90s Cage in a Western, I don't think it would have been.
No. Tons of explosions and him flying through the air with sparks and more sparks.
Good speed in a Western.
Oh man, John Woo doing a Western would be awesome.
Doing a Western. I need it now. I need that in my life.
Yeah, so 5 out of 10. I feel like it's okay, not great. For Cage, I gave him a 5. I don't know. I feel like he was missing some of the gravitas of like some of his other characters. He just, you know, I get that he's like on the spectrum and he's kind of a emotionless robot, but at the same time, like, I don't know, he kind of disappears a little bit in this of he's just kind of meh. He's there. I didn't get as much depth as Nigel did out of him. I felt like he seemed to enjoy being there, but also I feel like this was kind of a paycheck. Maybe it's harsh to give him a 5, but I just feel like he didn't really bring anything memorable to it. There were those couple of moments where he wasn't just the stoic robot. And maybe that's why I'm giving him a 5 is because he performed so well as a stoic robot that he felt genuinely stilted and boring. But I'll echo exactly what Nigel said. Of like, I really wish this movie would have been better, because seeing Cage in this performance, I think the premise was good of the on the spectrum people, kind of as the lead characters in a Western. We've never seen that before. The director actually said that was the biggest thing that. That was the reason that he decided to do the movies, because you've never seen this before. And I really feel like we haven't. We've never really explored this stuff. Autism in general wasn't even like considered a real thing until like 80 years ago or something like that. I feel like the first person who was ever diagnosed with autism is still alive, if I remember right. So we've never explored this, especially during the heyday of Westerns. They never talked about this kind of shit. And so I wish it would have been a little better. I hope that he continues to do more Westerns down the road.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
Is it time to leave?
I heard gunshots coming from across the canyon.
When?
10 minutes ago.
Why didn't you wake me?
Gunshots might have a way of speeding some folks up, but they have a nasty habit of slowing other folks down.
Well, that left a dilemma for Mama. She's not gonna bake a pie for this week's potluck. What could she possibly make?
A cake.
Exactly. There are.
Mama wouldn't like you pointing that gun at me.
Won't do us any good if we get there dead tired, or if our horse dies from exhaustion. It's not enough that we find these men. We need to be ready to kill them. You remember last summer when the parson's daughter died? You remember how his wife cried? Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
A little louder. Wah, wah. My baby, my baby.
Wah, wah. My baby, my baby.
I'll have to do. Keep it up.
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the Old West legend that is Nicolas Cage. In our next episode, you thought Deadfall and Vampire's Kiss were weird. Wait till you see a movie I've been excited to talk about since we first started. The surreal and weird as all hell 1990 David Lynch black comedy romantic crime film. That's almost like doesn't have a genre. It's just all over the place insanity. Wild at Heart. This is one of those like early movies that like really cemented Cage as a movie star that I feel like a lot of people really love. I feel like you either really love this movie or you really hate this movie. So we'll see where we all land. Nick Cage plays another uniquely named character, Sailor Ripley, who reunites with his girlfriend upon getting out of prison after killing someone in self-defense. But her mom isn't too pleased with her daughter's choice in men, so she hires a hitman to kill Sailor, who already has his hands full with a big-gummed weirdo out to get him, played by none other than the great Willem Dafoe. This is really the movie I think of when I think of Cage and Willem Dafoe together is Wild at Heart, not Dog Eat Dog. Anyways, make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Nothing belongs to the dead, because the dead don't need anything. Only the living need to possess things. The living need food, water, shelter, Clothes, family, money, land. But the dead have already been tended to. Once they're put in the ground, they have all they need. They're not selfish. I like the dead.
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
Okay, little girl.
Where? My baby, where?
Baby, what baby? What are you getting at?
You're getting off that horse.